A deep sense of foreboding washes over the narrator as they ponder the exact moment their life took a turn for the worse, questioning when their doom was truly sealed. Was it the very beginning, born into a world without parents, a stark contrast to the love other children received? Or perhaps the doom was sealed when a life of tireless work ended in betrayal and death at the hands of a trusted figure? But another possibility lingers. Maybe it was the cruel twist of fate, being reborn as a child, only to immediately face death again, surrounded by panicked cries for a physician. The child, Aerin, feels her small body consumed by a burning fever, every gasp and shiver a fight for life. A comforting hand grasps Aerin's, a reassuring presence trying to anchor her to the living world. While one maid weeps with worry, and a man desperately pleads for Aerin to hold on, another man coldly dismisses the child's critical condition, showing no concern for her life. Aerin, weak but conscious, hears the callous dismissal from your grace, and is shocked by his heartlessness as the maid's plea is ignored. That voice, it triggers a chilling recognition in Aerin. Despite all she's endured, this familiar coldness is unmistakable. He views her suffering as a mere fuss, confirming Aerin's horrifying realization. She's been reborn under the roof of her murderer from her past life. His cruel words, "You worthless brat," echo in her mind, the same contempt from her past pushing her to a breaking point even in this new, fragile existence. Suddenly, voices call out to Lady Aerin, pulling her attention away from the dark memories and the man who caused them. Marie, her maid, rushes over, frantic with worry about Aerin wandering off. Aerin, feeling better, doesn't understand Marie's continued concern. To prove her recovery, Aerin jumps playfully, causing Marie to panic even more, fearing a relapse for her young lady. Marie gently checks Aerin's temperature, acknowledging with relief that she indeed seems to be feeling much better. Still cautious, Marie lifts Aerin, insisting on rest, worried that overexertion could bring the dangerous fever back. Marie confides her fear of banishment from the Brauno household if Aerin falls ill again, a burden that makes Aerin quietly agree to rest. Aerin contemplates her new identity as a Brauno, a name and life that still feel utterly unreal to her. She recalls her past life, a decade spent as a secretary for the Duchy of Brauno, a place intimately familiar yet now strangely distant. Her service ended when Havenik Brauno's dark conspiracy began to unfold, a plot she was caught within, leading to her demise. Brauno's as dark Marie conspiracy carries her big, Aerin peeks around, noting with leading to her surprise that the demise portrait of the former Duke still hangs, a detail that feels out of place with her memories. The portrait's presence means Havenik hasn't become Duke yet. Aerin realizes she's been reborn into a time before she even began working for the family. She remembers the former Duke, Aerin Brauno, and his 3 sons, figures from her past knowledge and key players in the ducal politics. Each of Aerin's sons was infamous for different reasons, one foolish, one who eloped and died, and one a recluse, making the Duke's choice of heir incredibly difficult. Havenik, despite his flaws, eventually became the sole viable candidate. The moment his succession seemed certain, his true, sinister nature began to show. Once confident of his future position, Havenik started engaging in devious activities behind his father's back, a path of corruption and deceit. In her previous life, she had been Havenik's loyal dog, eagerly handling his corrupt dealings, believing she was indispensable. Aerin sighs, reflecting on the futility of her past devotion. All her hard work only led to her murder. Once, Havenik deemed her no longer useful. She'd seen countless others die by Havenik's machinations during her time as his secretary, yet naively never imagined she would suffer the same fate. Her loyalty was rooted in gratitude. The Braunos had sponsored her education, pulling her from obscurity and giving her what she thought was a chance. She had fervently believed that her dedication to the Braunos, who recognized her potential, would eventually be rewarded with security and respect. Aerin now scoffs at her past naivety. In the end, she was merely an expendable commoner to the very people she served so loyally. She vividly remembers the scene of her death, a resort with a seaside view, a beautiful place for such an ugly and lonely end. It was meant to be her first proper vacation, a peaceful and quiet escape she had longed for after years of tireless work. Ironically, the serene quietness of her chosen vacation spot meant her desperate screams for help went unheard as her killer approached. She had pleaded, desperately begging for her life to be spared in those final, terrifying moments. But no one was there to witness her plight or offer any pity, as her fate was sealed by the man she once served. And so, her life ended devoid of friends, love, or family, utterly alone in the world. She was lost, with no home to return to, feeling the cold grip of death as her life ebbed away. Reflecting on her demise as Havenik's lackey, Aerin grimly accepts she dug her own grave. Yet, there's a deeper truth she considers about her rebirth. Marie expresses her relief at Aerin's quick recovery, revealing she prayed all night for her well-being. Marie humbly admits she's unsure if her prayers worked, but her sincerity touches Aerin deeply, bringing tears to the child's eyes. Aerin is overwhelmed. She never imagined hearing such sweet, caring words directed at her, and it moves her to tears of gratitude. To celebrate, Marie offers Aerin a special treat, listing simple options like biscuits, raspberries, and milk, eager to please her. Aerin pauses. The selection of treats, biscuits, raspberries, milk, sounds disturbingly familiar to her, stirring an old memory. A dawning, unpleasant realization hits Aerin, and she desperately hopes her suspicion about the snacks is wrong. Aerin realizes Marie is offering her own meager servant snacks, biscuits, the same food they ate in her past life. Marie is sacrificing for her. Overcome with guilt, Aerin refuses the treats, unable to take what little Marie has for herself. Marie seems a bit surprised by the refusal. Marie's kind offer to save snacks for her pierces Aerin's heart. It's clear this isn't the first time Marie has made such a sacrifice for the neglected child. Another maid observes Marie saving the snacks, confirming Marie's habit of setting aside her own food, likely for Aerin. Entering her bleak room, Aerin understands. The rumors about her, Aerin Brauno's, poor treatment within the family were horrifyingly true. She is Aerin Brauno now, a name entangled with a grim fate, and neglect within this powerful family. Aerin is the child of Colony Brauno, the son who eloped. His strained family ties made Aerin an outcast, the black sheep from birth. Despite being taken into the castle after her parents' deaths, and having Marie as her maid, Aerin knows her life is far from privileged or secure. Her tiny, dusty room and reliance on Marie's meager snacks are stark proof. This is no life for a cherished granddaughter of a duke. Once Marie leaves, Aerin reflects on another dreadful aspect of her current situation. Beyond the neglect and poverty, the memory of Havenik's cruel glare and his dehumanizing words, "You worthless brat," sends a fresh wave of terror through Aerin. She recalls that in her past life as a secretary, Aerin Brauno was adopted by Havenik the same year she started working there, only to die in a supposed freak accident shortly after. People whispered that Aerin fell, but no one truly believed it was a simple accident, implying foul play orchestrated by someone powerful. But in dying no one niece. Manipulative ploy to gain favor, with implying Duke foul play Rafern. His ruthlessness extended to anyone he deemed useless, including the little girl he adopted for show, and then presumably discarded. The truth is painfully obvious to her now. Havenik orchestrated the death of the original Aerin Brauno. Lying in bed, Aerin realizes with dread that if she doesn't act, history will repeat itself. Havenik will adopt her again. And then, just like in her past life, she'll be killed by him, just as helpless as before, a pawn in his schemes. The vivid memory of drowning fuels her resolve. She absolutely will not let Havenik succeed in killing her again. Aerin struggles with a child's coordination, believing her rebirth as Aerin must have a purpose, perhaps a divine second chance to right past wrongs. She knows that surviving this time around won't be any easier than her first, tragic life, facing the same dangerous people. But adversity is familiar territory. She sharpens on the most crucial element, resolves of to be smart survival, and plan vigilant to navigate the dangers ahead and change her fate. She sharpens on the most crucial element, resolves of to be smart survival and plan. She sharpens on the most crucial element, resolves of to be smart survival and plan, vigilant to navigate the dangers ahead and change her fate, symbolized by the crossed-out face in her childish drawing. Her primary goal, above all else, is to avoid being adopted by Havenik, the man who murdered her once and would likely do so again. Aerin seeks something specific in the vast Brauno family library, a place she recalls from her past life, hoping to find a tool for her survival. The library, an impressive structure built next to the main castle, holds a wealth of knowledge that might aid her. Its grand scale speaks to the Brauno family's immense wealth and prestige, a place where one could find almost any information. However, Aerin isn't here for general knowledge. She has a very specific, critical purpose for visiting the library related to her plan. She triumphantly finds books on mana science, recognizing that understanding this field is crucial for her plan to succeed. Mana science, the scientific study of magic, is the key she seeks to unlock her path to survival and find a new protector. This field is vital for transforming mana stones into powerful magical instruments, a technology central to their world and its power structures. The innovations of mana scientists, developing these magical tools, were the driving force behind the Etuner Empire's growth and power. Yet, the rarity of mana stones and an efficient energy conversion posed huge challenges, making mana science a field largely accessible only to the wealthy. Aerin acknowledges that for a powerful and affluent family like the Braunos, the cost and rarity of mana stones were never a significant concern. Crucially, she stones were never recalls that mana's significant concern science is the sole interest of the man she hopes will adopt her instead of Havenik. Jeffrey Brauno. She approaches a specific, incredibly messy desk, piled high with papers and books, recognizing it as Jeffrey's workspace. The scattered notes are filled with complex mana science theories and spell configurations, clearly the work of a dedicated, if disorganized, researcher. As she examines the papers, all focused on mana science, something suddenly catches her attention. A flicker of recognition in the complex formulas. A sharp voice startles her so badly that, in her shock, a child's imaginary cat ears and tail pop out. She recognizes the imposing figure before her, Jeffrey Brauno, the reclusive, mad mana scientist, whose attention she desperately needs. This is Jeffrey Brauno, Duke Havenik's youngest son, an eccentric researcher notorious as the mad mana scientist. Known for isolating himself in his lab, Jeffrey is her target. Aerin plans to use her knowledge of mana science as bait to gain his attention. Aerin knows Jeffrey is eccentric and temperamental, a potentially frightening figure to approach, especially for a child. But crucially, unlike Havenik, Jeffrey isn't a murderer. Gathering her courage, Aerin nervously greets him, hoping to make a good impression. Jeffrey angrily orders her to put down his research papers, and Aerin, caught off guard, knows she's made a mistake by touching his precious work. Flustered and apologetic, Aerin tries to placate the irritated scientist, her imaginary cat features showing her distress at his anger. Jeffrey coldly dismisses her with a sharp scram. Now, and Aerin, intimidated, has no choice but to obey his command. Aerin berates herself for her foolish mistake. She completely forgot Jeffrey's notorious dislike for anyone touching his research and got caught red-handed. Her initial plan to impress Jeffrey with her future knowledge of mana science seems to have backfired spectacularly due to her carelessness. Now, her hopes of adoption are dashed. She'll be lucky if Jeffrey doesn't banish her from his sight entirely after this blunder. As if her situation wasn't bad enough, Aerin realizes something else that complicates matters further as she listens to Jeffrey. Jeffrey mutters to himself while reviewing his notes, acknowledging they are basic symbols and numbers, yet something about them is significant. Jeffrey recognizes the scribbles. They resemble the equations for Elfro, a groundbreaking concept. Aerin, hiding, listens intently, recognizing the name. Elfro, Aerin remembers from her past life, is a set of revolutionary equations that fundamentally changed mana science. The significance of Elfro was its ability to create magical instruments with far fewer mana stones, a massive leap in efficiency. Jeffrey recalls that due to its complicated structure, Elfro took a long time to be developed and commercialized in the past. Aerin knows this from her future knowledge. Elfro eventually became the cornerstone of all future magical instrument technology. A sudden, eventually became the shocking thought cornerstone of all future strikes Aerin. In her timeline, Elfro was famously developed by Havenik's lab, not Jeffrey's. She remembers how Havenik, after becoming heir, systematically dismantled parts of the family business through mismanagement and greed. The duchy was saved from bankruptcy only by the timely discovery of Elfro, which Havenik then used to boast about his supposed foresight. The presence of the foundational Elfro equations among Jeffrey's papers plants a seed of undeniable suspicion in Aerin's mind. The horrifying truth dawns on Aerin. Havenik must have stolen Jeffrey's groundbreaking research and claimed it as his own. Aerin burns with the desire to warn Jeffrey about the immense future value of his equations and to prevent Havenik from stealing them. But she despairs, knowing Jeffrey's sole focus is his research, doubting he'd believe her or care enough to fight Havenik over it. Jeffrey, meanwhile, is visibly frustrated with his work, scratching his head and muttering about a problem he can't solve in his equations. Aerin observes Jeffrey's struggle, wondering what specific issue is causing his research to stall, seeing a potential opening. She suspects the problem lies within the complex equations he's working on. An opportunity, perhaps, to showcase her own hidden talents. Aerin cautiously approaches Jeffrey again, pointing to his notes and saying she noticed something, hoping to get his attention constructively this time. Jeffrey turns, clearly annoyed by the interruption, a vein throbbing on his temple, not pleased to see her again. Aerin boldly points out an error in his formula, a statement that clearly startles the renowned scientist into silence. Jeffrey, incredulous and stern, demands to know what a child could possibly mean by correcting his complex work. Aerin is terrified by Jeffrey's furious reaction, not understanding why he's so angry when she hasn't done anything wrong this time. Indignation bubbles up. She was only trying to help him, not cause trouble or steal anything, and his anger feels unjust. Frustration overriding her fear, Aerin blurts out that he's made the same mistake 3 times in his calculations, compounding her audacity. Later, Aerin is furious with herself for losing her temper and shouting at Jeffrey, jeopardizing her plan yet again. She despairs, convinced Jeffrey must hate her now. Her chances of gaining his favor seem utterly ruined by her outburst. With adoption by Jeffrey seemingly impossible, Aerin considers desperate alternatives, running away or searching for unknown, distant relatives. Realizing she has limited options, Aerin resolves to apologize to Jeffrey, hoping to salvage the situation before it's truly too late. She decides to return to the library, intending to apologize to Jeffrey if he's still there and beg for his understanding. As she nears the library, Jeffrey bursts out, looking disheveled and frantic, startling Aerin with his sudden, intense appearance. Jeffrey shoves the corrected notes in her face, demanding confirmation that her revisions were indeed accurate. Aerin is taken aback by his manic energy and intense focus on the corrected formulas, unsure how to react to this sudden shift. She stares in bewilderment, completely confused by Jeffrey's sudden change in demeanor and his urgent questioning about her corrections. Aerin wonders if Jeffrey hunted her down merely to confirm the accuracy of her corrections to his equations. It seems incredibly obsessive. Corrections were accurate, incredibly much to his own obsessive relief. Aerin internally celebrates her small, risky victory. Jeffrey, now deeply suspicious, adjusts his glasses and directly questions Aerin about how long she'd been looking at his research. Aerin stammers that it was her first time, but Jeffrey is highly skeptical, finding her claim hard to believe given her profound insight. Jeffrey challenges her, stating that spotting 3 errors in complex research at a mere glance is highly improbable for an uninformed child. Aerin proudly claims she's good at calculations. Jeffrey is astonished, questioning if she can truly read advanced spell equations. She realizes her speed made him suspicious. Aerin confidently asserts her ability to perform basic arithmetic, implying that's all it took to spot his errors. A slight, strategic oversimplification. Jeffrey remains visibly suspicious of her extraordinary claim. Aerin, seizing the moment, Jeffrey offers to prove her strokes his abilities. Chin, mulling over her offer. A test might just reveal the truth behind this peculiar, intelligent child. He concedes that testing her abilities isn't a bad idea at all. It's the only way to verify her improbable claims. Jeffrey places a stack of papers before Aerin, challenging her to find any errors within them. The true test begins now. Aerin examines the papers, admitting to herself that magical spells are not her forte, but she focuses on the mathematical components she understands well. Aerin quickly slides papers back, pointing out errors with surprising speed. Jeffrey acknowledges her findings with a curt "fine." She continues at an astonishing pace, identifying errors or confirming correctness, leaving Jeffrey struggling to keep up with her rapid assessment. Jeffrey is utterly bewildered. He cannot comprehend how she's processing and solving these complex problems mentally, and so incredibly quickly. Aerin can't help a little smugness at his surprise. Jeffrey is still reeling from the sheer speed and accuracy of her calculations. Aerin recalls her past. The Braunos sponsored her precisely because she was a gifted child, particularly with numbers, at her orphanage. She is supremely confident in her numerical abilities. Monoscience mathematics, for her, is almost child's play given her past expertise. A thought strikes Jeffrey. This child's talent could be invaluable. She could handle calculations, freeing him to analyze and potentially uncover why his experiments fail. Jeffrey stares at Aerin with a new, intense interest, a spark in his eyes that makes her flinch, unsure of his sudden, focused intentions. His intense gaze makes Aerin tremble as he asks her age. She timidly replies she's 7 years old. Jeffrey muses that 7 is very young for such abilities, but quickly dismisses it as unimportant given her apparent genius. He abruptly tells Aerin to find him later that afternoon, leaving her surprised and confused by the unexpected summons. Aerin asks if she should meet him at the library, but Jeffrey corrects her. She is to come to his lab. Aerin questions why his lab, and Jeffrey announces with a smirk that from now on, she will be his assistant. Jeffrey drops his papers onto hers. Aerin is utterly shocked by this unexpected turn of events. His assistant. Aerin internally panics. She wanted Jeffrey's attention to become his adopted daughter, not his employee. This wasn't the plan at all. Jeffrey departs, instructing her not to be late as they have much to discuss, leaving a flustered Aerin trying to process the sudden job offer. Jeffrey suddenly turns back as if he forgot something important, making Aerin flinch, bracing for more unexpected news or demands. He asks her what she prefers, a question that leaves Aerin confused and searching for context, unsure what he means. Jeffrey clarifies he means snacks, assuming she must have a favorite. Aerin, rarely having had treats, ponders what her favorite could even be. Aerin thinks of luxurious sweets she's never had, acutely aware of her shabby existence as an unwanted child, deeming such treats too expensive for her. After a moment, Aerin quietly answers biscuits, a simple choice that seems to surprise Jeffrey slightly with its modesty. Jeffrey seems underwhelmed by her choice. Aerin, fidgeting, confirms that yes, biscuits are good, her preference genuine given her limited experiences. Jeffrey considers her simple request, a faint smile playing on his lips as he sees the small, earnest child reflected in his glasses. He agrees. Jeffrey leaves with a "see you later." Aerin, resigned to her new role, mutters her acceptance, feeling she has little choice in the matter now. Dressed for her new job, Aerin is incredibly nervous about becoming Jeffrey's assistant, a prospect she still finds surreal and daunting. While not as bad as being adopted by the demonic Havenik, this assistant role is still far from her ideal outcome of becoming family. She anxiously imagines a future where she still ends up overworked and killed by Havenik, but quickly tries to banish such negative thoughts. She reminds herself that Jeffrey, despite the unexpected turn, is currently her only hope for survival, her only way to avoid Havenik's clutches. Determined to make the best of it, Aerin psychs herself up to get on Jeffrey's good side and knocks on his lab door. Jeffrey calls her in. Aerin timidly enters the lab, announcing her arrival for her first day as his assistant. Aerin is surprised the lab of the hermit isn't as gloomy or messy as she imagined. Jeffrey directs her to a seat prepared for her. Jeffrey indicates a tiny desk, just her size, apologizing for its simplicity due to the short notice and promising a better one later. Aerin thanks him politely. Jeffrey tells her to wait while he finishes something, gesturing towards a covered dish for her to eat while she waits. Aerin looks at the covered dish, wondering if this is the snack Jeffrey promised her earlier. She remembers her request for biscuits and lifts the cover, exclaiming with delight, about to thank him for the simple treat. Instead of just biscuits, a beautiful strawberry shortcake sits before her, leaving Aerin utterly stunned and speechless. Aerin is ecstatic and disbelieving. A whole strawberry shortcake, just for her, it's more than she ever dreamed of having. Overwhelmed with emotion, Aerin tearfully asks if she can really have it, then bursts out with heartfelt thanks to Jeffrey. She takes a bite, and is immediately enraptured by the taste. It's the most delicious thing she's ever eaten in either of her lives. The combination of cream and strawberries is a taste of pure heaven to her, an unimaginable delight for someone so deprived. She declares it the best cake ever, unable to stop eating the delightful treat Jeffrey provided. Watching Jeffrey, who provided this unexpected kindness, Aerin starts to see the mad scientist in a completely new, softer light. Aerin is so engrossed, thinking Jeffrey is a knight in shining armor, that she doesn't immediately register his question about her finishing the cake already. Embarrassed by her voracious appetite, Aerin apologizes, explaining she's never tasted anything so good. Jeffrey seems to react subtly to her words. Jeffrey, perhaps a little flustered himself by her reaction, tells her to wipe her mouth first. Aerin is momentarily confused. She thanks him and wipes her mouth. Jeffrey then quietly asks if she would like more cake, surprisingly considerate. Aerin, though tempted, politely declines, saying she's full and satisfied, not wanting to seem too greedy. Jeffrey reassures her there's plenty more cake, so she doesn't need to eat it all so quickly next time, implying future treats. He adds that he could always prepare her chosen snacks if she works for him, a statement delivered with a hint of shyness that Aerin notices. A sudden realization hits Aerin. She dashes to Jeffrey, asking if he made the cake himself. He coughs, admitting he's picky about his food. Aerin is floored. She knew Jeffrey was a genius scientist, but a master baker too. He ascends to godlike status in her eyes. She's completely starstruck, wondering if this multi-talented, unexpectedly kind man is some sort of deity in disguise. Aerin, full of cake and admiration, is ready. Jeffrey, however, decides it's time to get down to business and end the pleasantries. Jeffrey motions for Aerin to follow, ready to explain her tasks as his new assistant and put her to work. He presents her with a book, Introduction to Mana Science, authored by himself, instructing her to read it first as her initial task. Jeffrey proudly states it's one of his own books, and in his opinion, the best in the Empire. Aerin thanks him for the loan. He clarifies sternly that she's only borrowing it, as he doesn't give his precious books away to anybody. Aerin understands his possessiveness. Jeffrey, looking a bit like he's on a sugar high himself, mentions her sugar rush. Aerin is unfamiliar with the term. He explains that gifted types like them need sweets because sugar helps the brain work faster. Aerin is surprised to be included in us. Aerin feels a warm tickle of pleasure at being called gifted by the renowned Jeffrey Brauno. A rare compliment. A cynical thought crosses her mind. Was the delicious cake just fuel to get her to work, like pouring gasoline into an engine? Jeffrey hands her a large stack of papers, instructing her to check them for errors. Aerin is daunted by the sheer volume of work. Jeffrey confirms she must check all of it. Aerin is aghast, realizing this is essentially child labor, despite the cake. Jeffrey tempts her with the promise of chocolate and apple pie for tomorrow's treat, effectively bribing her. Her eyes widen at the prospect. The thought of more delicious treats is a powerful motivator, and Aerin enthusiastically declares she'll do her best with the assigned work. Aerin reflects that while she knew Mana Science was the way to Jeffrey's favor, she's surprised at how easily things are progressing. Despite the child labor aspect, things are generally turning out much better than she initially feared after her earlier blunders with him. She hopes that by diligently helping Jeffrey and showing genuine interest, she can improve his perception of her over time and gain his trust. Her ultimate goal remains: seize the right moment, get adopted by Jeffrey, and finally live a life of peace and luxury as a true Brauno. Aerin is feeling optimistic about her plan's success when she suddenly spots something that gives her pause: an unwelcome interruption. Two young boys, whom Aerin recognizes as Havenik's sons, Avalon and Vimel, confront her, questioning her presence in the main house. Aerin is annoyed but not surprised by their arrogant and rude demeanor. She notes the original Aerin would maintain a straight face, but wonders why. The boys seem confused by her calm reaction, suggesting to Aerin that they are accustomed to bullying her and getting a different, more submissive response. Aerin recalls the Brauno family hierarchy, and how, in her past life as a secretary, she often had to grovel before these very boys. A realization dawns. As Duke Havenik's granddaughter, even if neglected, she's now technically part of the direct family, a higher status than before. Aerin's slight, confident grin utterly confuses the boys, who can only assume she must be sick to act so out of character. Aerin, feeling a newfound confidence in her tenuous position, calmly dismisses the boys, saying she's busy with important work. Avalon, enraged by her audacity and unexpected response, snarls at her nerve for daring to dismiss them. He pokes her forehead aggressively, furious that she dares to talk back to them, his usual targets. Avalon continues his verbal assault, calling her a leech and questioning her right to be in the main house, a place they consider theirs. They try to provoke her further, asking why she isn't crying like she supposedly did before, clearly used to her being an easy target for their torment. Aerin firmly tells them to stop calling her a leech, finally standing up for herself against their insults. She then drops a bombshell, asking if they'd like to be called the Bedwetting Brothers, using a secret she knows from her past life. The boys are utterly shocked. She knows their embarrassing secret. Vimel instinctively hits Avalon. Aerin confirms she knows all about it. She reveals their mother used to complain to her, as a secretary, about their bedwetting problem constantly. She then asks if she can leave. Aerin offers to keep their secret if they stop bullying her, shaming them for ganging up on their little sister. They angrily deny she's their sister, and realizing she's trying to threaten them, vow not to let her off easily for her insolence. Aerin sighs internally, realizing these spoiled brats are relentless and won't back down easily, despite her leverage. Deciding they're not worth her time, Aerin turns to leave, muttering she'd rather be alone than in their bad company. The boys are not done and quickly move to block her escape, one of them stepping forward with a malicious grin. Avalon crudely gestures for her to pass between his legs, calling it a special leech road, a humiliating demand. Aerin is infuriated by their childish and demeaning taunt, imagining herself blindfolded to endure their nonsense. Avalon continues to taunt her, saying if she doesn't comply, she'll have to stay and endure their bullying indefinitely. Aerin challenges his demand and warns them to back off before the situation escalates and she truly loses her temper. She tries to intimidate them by mentioning the Duke, hoping the threat of their grandfather finding out will make them stop their harassment. Her threat backfires. They are enraged that she, a leech, would dare to threaten them with their grandfather. Aerin flinches from their anger. Avalon, furious, grabs Aerin's hair, intending to physically assert his dominance and punish her for her defiance. He pulls her hair, cruelly telling her she's nothing. Aerin cries out in pain from his rough handling. Avalon scoffs at the idea of her telling their grandfather, daring her to snitch, his anger escalating at her continued resistance. He cruelly taunts that their grandfather wouldn't care if a worthless orphan like her disappeared, striking at her deepest insecurities. His words trigger a painful memory of being told to know her place, and she's momentarily overwhelmed by the familiar cruelty. Snapping, Aerin retaliates, hitting Avalon with her book and shouting she'd rather be an orphan than as vile as him. Avalon clutches his head, now bleeding from the impact of the heavy book. Vymel cries out in alarm at the sight of blood. Aerin, now thoroughly enraged, swings her book again to drive them away, shouting for them to leave her alone. Vymel, terrified by Aerin's sudden ferocity, urges Avalon to retreat, convinced she's lost her mind and is dangerous. Avalon, however, is even more enraged at being hit and grabs Aerin again, refusing to back down from a fight with the leech. His face contorted with rage, Avalon declares that Aerin is now dead meat for daring to injure him. Avalon vows to tell his father, Havenik, to punish Aerin for her actions, expecting his father to take his side. Avalon bursts in on Havenik, who looks up from a letter, mildly surprised by his son's sudden, agitated appearance. The boys implore Havenik to punish Aerin, Vymel quickly correcting himself from calling her a leech, claiming she hit Avalon without provocation. Havenik's cold gaze falls upon the battered Aerin. His "you" again sends a chill down her spine, knowing his displeasure well. Havenik asks for an explanation. Avalon spins a tale, claiming they merely questioned Aerin, who then insulted and attacked them. Aerin is shocked and horrified by Avalon's blatant lies, knowing this is a complete distortion of what actually happened. Havenik sighs, his expression filled with disdain, remarking that such behavior is expected from a lowly orphan. Aerin clenches her fist in silent fury. Avalon, emboldened by his father's reaction, shoves Aerin again, urging Havenik to reprimand her harshly. Havenik mildly chastises his sons for making a scene over a little girl, but his, however, indicates he's not siding with Aerin. Havenik coldly orders Aerin to apologize to Avalon and Vymel, a command that stuns her into disbelief and outrage. Aerin is indignant. Apologize to them. They were the aggressors, insulting her and pulling her hair. Havenik presses her for an answer, his tone growing impatient as she remains defiantly silent, clenching her fists. Havenik reminds her of her precarious position, implying she should be grateful and avoid trouble, not cause it by fighting his sons. He looms over her menacingly, his anger growing as she continues to defy him by ignoring his command to apologize. Losing his patience, Havenik grabs Aerin's arm forcefully, repeating his demand for an immediate apology. Aerin tries to protest, stating that Avalon started the fight, but Havenik is unmoved, gritting his teeth in annoyance at her excuses. Havenik glares down at her, his voice cold and hard as he orders her to get on her knees and apologize sincerely to his sons. Aerin has a flicker of realization, recognizing a particular, telling expression she's seen on Havenik before. She understands his unspoken message. Keeping quiet is the only way to prevent more trouble from him. Resigned, Aerin feels she has no choice but to submit to Havenik's pressure, believing he won't stop until she kneels. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice rings out, declaring that no one needs to kneel, startling Aerin from her decision. To Aerin's utter shock, Jeffrey appears, his presence completely unexpected. Flustered and blushing, Aerin turns, her mind racing to understand why Jeffrey is suddenly there. Her heart pounds, as she wonders if Jeffrey just happened to be passing by, or perhaps, her racing heart dares to imagine, he came for more specific reason. Jeffrey gently pats Aerin's head, observing her disheveled state with concern, a gesture that surprises her. Ignoring Havenik's indignant outburst about being interrupted, Jeffrey focuses solely on Aerin, asking if she's hurt and noting her injuries aren't as severe as they appear. As Jeffrey examines her forehead, Aerin flinches when Havenik angrily accuses her of being the aggressor. Havenik furiously points to his son, claiming Aerin made a bloody wreck out of him. He continues his tirade, incensed that a lowly child would dare strike a Brauno, and an elder at that. Jeffrey internally scoffs at Havenik's hypocrisy, remembering how Havenik himself abused Aerin by pulling her hair and calling her names, which seems to momentarily stun Havenik. When Havenik demands proof for Jeffrey's unspoken accusation, Jeffrey coolly replies it's for Havenik to determine the truth himself. As Jeffrey's unspoken accusation sputters with rage, Jeffrey replies it's for Havenik to having had enough determ, declares they are wasting time, and decides they should leave. Jeffrey instructs Aerin to stay still as he tends to her scraped cheek, and she flinches slightly at the touch. He gently asks if she is in much pain, but Aerin quickly reassures him that she is fine. After cleaning her wound, Jeffrey advises Aerin to be more careful in the future, and she meekly agrees. A wave of anxiety hits Aerin. This incident could ruin her chances of Jeffrey considering her for adoption, which depends on his favor. She fiddles with her hands, despairing that this disaster makes her an unsuitable candidate for adoption, even if Jeffrey finds her useful as an assistant. Aerin laments Jeffrey witnessing the altercation, then is surprised when he remarks that the brothers will likely leave her alone now. Meanwhile, Avalon and Vimel, Havenik's sons, appear distressed and unsure of what to do after the confrontation. Jeffrey then refers to the boys by name before teasingly suggesting calling them the bedwetting brothers, causing Aerin to flinch. He decides to let the incident slide since he was there, but instructs Aerin to report any future issues to him as her supervisor. Aerin obediently agrees and promises to stay out of trouble, then indicates she has something more to say. Jeffrey reassures Aerin that she did nothing wrong in the earlier incident, offering her a book. He further tells her not to apologize for things she isn't sorry for, a statement that gives Aerin pause as she accepts the book. Squeezing the book, Aerin silently thanks him, her prior belief that the Brauno family only protects their own now challenged by his kindness. Jeffrey explains he picked up her dropped book, offering a replacement, but Aerin prefers the original, the one he first entrusted to her. Jeffrey, with a hint of possessiveness, clarifies he's only lending the book as he doesn't give them away, a habit Aerin recalls him mentioning casually. Jeffrey concludes the matter with a simple "very well then," leaving Aerin in quiet thought. Marie the maid exclaims in shock at Aerin's scratched face and torn dress, while Aerin looks slightly sheepish. Aerin hesitates to tell Marie the truth, fearing it will start rumors, especially given the staff's tendency to gossip about the Havenik brothers. She tries to downplay her injuries as a mere fall, but Marie is skeptical, suspecting a serious fight and even asking if Lord Jeffrey was involved. Aerin vehemently denies it, insisting she just fell and that Jeffrey only provided medicine, though Marie seems unconvinced. Marie gently takes Aerin's hands, sincerely offering to listen if Aerin ever needs to confide in her about anything. She encourages Aerin to be honest, as that's the only way she can offer even a little help, a sentiment Aerin acknowledges internally. Aerin inwardly insists she really did just trip, though Marie's continued silence suggests her doubts remain. Marie observes that Aerin seems like a completely different person since recovering from her fever. Aerin silently concedes that Marie's observation is understandable, given how much she has actually changed. She reflects that since waking in this new body, her every thought has been on survival, not on behaving like the original Aerin. Knowing Marie was close to the original Aerin, she anticipates suspicion and wonders what excuse she can offer for her altered demeanor. Marie then clarifies that she isn't saying she dislikes this new version of Aerin. She expresses gladness for Aerin's apparent new strength, but gently urges her not to hide her pain in the future. Aerin looks at the blueprints with relief and purpose, realizing Jeffrey almost discarded plans for magical instruments that will be vital in 10 years. She understands these future necessities are currently too advanced and their ingredients too rare for immediate popularity, pondering if this is why Jeffrey dismissed them. Recalling how she saved the blueprints Jeffrey was about to discard, Aerin now sees a golden opportunity. Commercializing them could make her rich. Aerin is resolute, confident that once she creates the instruments, public interest will gradually build. She views this venture as a financial safety net should Jeffrey not adopt her, but she feels the urgent pressure of limited time. Jeffrey's sudden departure for the Imperial Palace 3 days prior, much earlier than in her past life, shocks Aerin, dashing her hopes of accompanying him if adopted. Aerin speculates that her assistance with Jeffrey's research might be the cause for this accelerated timeline. She anticipates a much busier period when Jeffrey returns, assuming events don't deviate too drastically. This makes her feel even more pressure to launch her instrument business before Jeffrey's return, though she feels overwhelmed by the logistical challenges for a 7-year-old. Lost in these thoughts, Aerin is startled when an unfamiliar voice suddenly asks who she is. She is shocked to see the imposing Duke Aerin Brauno, who sternly questions her presence in the lab. Aerin notes the Duke appears surprisingly healthy compared to her memories, as he impatiently repeats his question. Remembering her manners, a flustered Aerin stammers a greeting to her grandfather, the Duke, while internally panicking. Overwhelmed by her first direct interaction with the Duke, Aerin nervously explains she is Lord Jeffrey's assistant, prompting the Duke to ask where Jeffrey is. Upon hearing Jeffrey left for the palace days ago, a vein visibly throbs on the Duke's temple, betraying his deep irritation. The Duke internally seethes, gritting his teeth in disbelief and anger at Jeffrey's actions. He mutters disdainfully about Jeffrey wasting his life in the lab chasing smoke, making Aerin wonder about the true source of his displeasure. The Duke's sudden, loud command for Aerin to relay a message to Jeffrey startles her. He furiously declares that Jeffrey will have no place in the castle if he continues his current lifestyle. Aerin is aghast and terrified at the Duke's threat to banish Jeffrey from the castle. She internally defends Jeffrey, believing his research, while obsessive, isn't as unfathomable as rumors suggest, despite his grandfather's fury. As Aerin wishes the Duke understood the brilliance of Jeffrey's Elfro research, the Duke declares he might just empty the lab himself, a threat that horrifies her. Aerin panics internally, screaming in her mind that he can't, because she desperately needs that lab. In a burst of desperation, Aerin shouts, "Grandfather, you can't," which visibly startles the Duke. A butler attempts to announce their readiness to leave, but the Duke silences him, his attention now fixed on Aerin. The Duke demands an explanation for her outburst, and Aerin earnestly insists Jeffrey is doing vital work and cannot be evicted. She asserts her knowledge comes from assisting him, confidently stating his research will prove invaluable to the entire empire. The Duke scoffs dismissively, while Aerin internally champions the Elfro project, imagining profits vast enough to support 3 generations in luxury. Aerin argues Jeffrey will soon be self-sufficient and won't need funding, but the Duke skeptically asks if Jeffrey himself claimed this. The Duke sighs wearily, muttering about Jeffrey living like a madman, obsessed with the past. Aerin catches his mention of the past and politely inquires further, causing the Duke to flinch almost imperceptibly. The Duke sternly warns Aerin she'll be in big trouble if he discovers she's lying, and she nervously assures him she understands. Now thoughtful, the Duke asks Aerin to detail her exact duties as Jeffrey's assistant. Aerin explains she reviews Jeffrey's notes to correct calculation errors, glancing at some nearby. When the Duke questions if she performs these calculations mentally, Aerin proudly confirms it, adding that Jeffrey even called her an arithmetic genius. While Aerin admits she can't yet handle Mana science equations, the nearby butler is astounded she can even read the complex formulas, let alone calculate them mentally. Examining a paper, the Duke concedes that the equations Aerin is working with are indeed quite advanced. The Duke presses Aerin on the truth of her claims, and she firmly reaffirms them, while the butler silently wonders if Jeffrey taught her such skills. Aerin clarifies her arithmetic ability is innate, but Lord Jeffrey is currently teaching her about Mana science, spells, and their equations. The Duke then gestures towards another stack of papers, the blueprints, and asks Aerin about them. As the Duke examines one of the blueprints Aerin said Jeffrey allowed her to use, he presumes they must be failed research projects. Aerin corrects his assumption, leading the Duke to then ask if she's using them for study. Not exactly, Aerin replies, hinting at a different, more ambitious purpose for the blueprints. With a burst of enthusiasm, Aerin reveals her plan to manufacture and sell the instruments detailed in the blueprints. The Duke is taken aback, questioning her desire to sell these, and asking what on earth they are. Aerin brightens, sensing she may have finally captured the Duke's elusive interest with her bold proposal. She confidently predicts future high demand for the instruments, even suggesting the Duke himself will want one, eliciting a thoughtful hum. The Duke is privately amused by Aerin's conviction, noting the sparkle in her eyes as she speaks. He tests her certainty about the instrument's success, but Aerin, despite a slight nervous gesture, remains unshakably positive. When asked if they'll be flying off the shelves, Aerin responds with unwavering confidence. Of course. The Duke then sharply suggests that if her predictions are true, Jeffrey won't need his research funding. A statement that horrifies Aerin. Aerin is bewildered, having thought she was gaining his interest, while the Duke cynically points out that successful inventions should fund themselves. Horrified at her blunder, Aerin despairs internally as the Duke, seemingly satisfied, tells his butler it's time to depart. Aerin tries to interject, but the Duke curtly cuts her off, stating he's heard enough for now. He dismisses Aerin to her room, sarcastically telling her not to bother guarding what he implies will soon be an empty lab. Aerin anxiously clutches her brooch, wondering if sharing her ideas was a disastrous mistake or if the Duke intended to confront Jeffrey regardless. Regardless of the Duke's initial intentions, Aerin is now miserably certain she has only made things worse for Jeffrey. The butler, catching up to the Duke, confirms the earlier plan to empty the lab, which the Duke affirms. When the butler asks why he's now leaving it, the Duke instructs him to leave the lab untouched until the annual House Council. The Duke then turns to his butler, asking for his thoughts on the situation. The butler mistakenly assumes the Duke means Lord Jeffrey, but the Duke, irritated, clarifies he's asking about someone else. Aha, the butler says, understanding dawning, realizing the Duke wants his opinion on the little lady Aerin. The butler remarks that Aerin is gifted beyond her years and surprisingly bold, a stark contrast to the silent child who first arrived. The Duke reflects on his late son Jeffrey's past defiance when faced with opposition. He recalls Jeffrey's resolute declaration to leave the castle if the Duke continued to oppose his endeavors. The Duke muses on how his son broke family ties so defiantly, only to pass away later, leaving young Aerin orphaned and alone. He believes a child shouldn't be blamed for adult complexities, which is why he took Aerin in, but he's astounded by her sudden, dramatic change. The butler suggests Jeffrey's recognition of Aerin's talent might have boosted her confidence, but the Duke scoffs, deriding Jeffrey's ability to even care for himself. The butler, accustomed to the Duke's attitude towards Jeffrey, theorizes Aerin might simply be showing her true personality as she adapts. The butler then proposes that the Duke allow Aerin to join the other family children for a formal education. He reminds the Duke of his stated dedication to educating the gifted within the Brauno household, suggesting Aerin perfectly fits this description. The Duke acknowledges the possibility of her being gifted, but expresses concern that she's too young for any formal test. The butler is puzzled, as he thought the Duke's earlier comments implied Aerin needed to fund Jeffrey's research by selling her inventions, a test in itself. The Duke dismisses this with a HMPH, stating firmly that Aerin is just a child and he wouldn't expect that of her. He reveals his true intention. He never expected Aerin to fund anything, but hoped her relaying their conversation would motivate Jeffrey, some grandfather. However, it wasn't long before Duke Havenik realized his manipulative attempt had completely missed the mark. An excited Aerin appears, notepad in hand, announcing she has something important to show him. Aerin stands before Duke Havenik's grand office doors, guessing his meeting with vassals should be concluding. Duke Havenik splits his time between the capital and Brauno Castle, but has been at the castle longer recently, likely preparing for the annual House Council. The annual House Council is a crucial 3-day event for the Brauno household, where major decisions are made. Family members gather at this highly influential event for significant announcements and rulings, which are binding for a year. This council is unmissable, and Aerin recalls that in her past life, her adoption by Havenik was to be announced there, given her lineage. Aerin sighs, realizing she's about to be busy again, though for entirely different reasons this time. She shudders, remembering the exhausting annual task of preparing Havenik's council reports, as he only chased short-term profits, ignoring projects with true potential. Havenik's typical business cycle involved throwing more money at failing ventures, then leaving his aides to clean up the resulting mess. Worse, he'd forge numbers and fake reports to feign success, a stressful memory that still gives Aerin a headache as she recalls the aides begging her for help. Compared to that nightmare, working for Jeffrey, who simply dismisses her when her work is done, is a piece of cake. However, Aerin worries that even this preferable work environment is pointless if the lab itself is doomed to disappear. She panics, realizing that if Havenik shuts down the lab and proceeds with her adoption by Havenik at the council, her future is bleak. Though Jeffrey's research wasn't shut down in her past life, Aerin knows things are different now, and feels she must act proactively. Despite her resolve, a flicker of doubt remains. She's not entirely sure her plan to approach the Duke will work. Aerin quickly shakes off her apprehension, telling herself not to get weak now as she can't back out. She decides there's no use worrying about potential failure before it happens, stealing her resolve. Aerin believes her proposal will pique Rafern's interest, banking on his lifelong dedication to protecting the Brauno household. The butler opens the door to Duke Rafern's office, allowing Aerin to enter. As Aerin enters, the vassals present are surprised by the unexpected appearance of a young lady. The vassals are immediately charmed, commenting on Aerin's pretty dress and her general cuteness. They begin to speculate about her identity, wondering if she's the late Lord Coloni's daughter, and noting a resemblance. Aerin observes that Duke Rafern's most trusted vassals are all gathered in the room. Realizing their strategic importance, Aerin brightly greets them, hoping to win their favor alongside the Duke's. One of the vassals remarks with admiration on Aerin's graceful demeanor, a comment that slightly puzzles her. Aerin is startled to recognize Viscount Duce, who looks much younger than she remembers, as he kindly asks why she's there. Aerin directly states her wish to speak with her grandfather, a request and term of address that surprises Viscount Duce. Viscount Duce, amused, indulgently asks if she brought a drawing to show her grandfather. His aide quietly suggests to the Viscount that perhaps Aerin, having recently learned to write, has brought a letter. The surrounding vassals coo over the presumed innocent nature of her visit, finding her sweet, which makes Aerin feel rather embarrassed by their assumptions. Viscount Duce grins, gently chiding the others for their open speculation in front of Aerin. He then politely offers to lead Lady Aerin to her grandfather. Viscount Duce indicates the room where the Duke should be. Viscount Duce announces Lady Aerin's arrival to Duke Rafern. Duke Rafern, still in his meeting, asks who has arrived, while Aerin realizes with a jolt she's interrupted. Aerin nervously offers a deep bow and a polite greeting to the Duke. She is too frightened to look up, while the vassals observe her nervousness with sympathetic amusement. A vassal lady explains to the Duke that Aerin likely brought something to show him and rushed to arrive, noting her perspiring forehead. Duke Rafern summons Aerin to approach, and she mentally steels herself to comply. As Aerin approaches, she nervously wonders why the vassals aren't leaving her to face the Duke alone. What she brought, and nervously Aerin, addressing vassals as leaving her to face the Duke grandfather, states she wanted to show him something. The Duke is surprised she'd approach him, expecting her to be more frightened after his earlier outburst about Jeffrey. He asks if he must see it right now, and Aerin firmly insists he must. As the Duke takes the notepad, he glances around, silently questioning why all the vassals are still curiously lingering. The vassals eagerly express their curiosity, speculating whether Aerin is showing a drawing or her new writing skills, making her feel shy. The Duke sarcastically remarks on their curiosity and dismisses them, much to their visible disappointment. Viscount Duce, however, quickly makes an excuse to stay, claiming he just remembered something else to report. Some people just can't take a hint. The Duke, with a resigned HMPH, tells Duce to keep his wits about him, then begins to flip through Aerin's notepad. Viscount Duce is intrigued, noting the Duke is uncharacteristically taking his time with the papers, a rarity even for important reports. Duce briefly wonders if it's a threat letter, but quickly dismisses the idea based on the Duke's calm demeanor. The Duke suddenly laughs, remarking that he understands now what Aerin has brought, leaving Viscount Duce utterly bewildered. Viscount Duce eagerly asks to see the notepad, and the amused Duke permits him to take a look. Viscount Duce begins to read the notepad, which starts with a formal "Dear Grandfather." The letter is a proposal. Aerin asks the Duke to manufacture and sell the items from the blueprints, offering him all resulting profits. In return, she asks him to maintain Lord Jeffrey's lab and funding, emphatically stating, "You can't chase him out," alongside a childlike drawing. Viscount Duce is astonished. This is no cute letter, but a serious, audacious business proposal from a mere child. He marvels that a child, in clumsy handwriting, would present such a proposal to the head of the Empire's largest trade guild. The letter cleverly instructs the Duke to turn the page for important product information only if he agrees to the deal. Viscount Duce now understands the Duke's careful page-turning. He was seriously considering the conditional offer. Though intensely curious himself, Duce respects Aerin's terms and returns the notepad to the Duke, acknowledging it's not his place to view classified information. Viscount Duce is dying of curiosity, amazed at how Aerin, with a proposal written in colored pencil, has so skillfully maneuvered the powerful Duke. The Duke acknowledges the proposal's interest, but pragmatically asks Aerin how she plans to handle potential losses. Aerin confidently reassures her grandfather that he himself will not suffer any losses from this venture. She explains that unsold items can be reverted to raw materials using Jeffrey's spells, minimizing loss, though the Duke still questions the initial investment. Aerin argues the initial cost is trivial compared to the Duke's unstated goal and his current expenditure on Jeffrey's research. As Aerin explains how this fulfills the Duke's desire for a risk-managed funding cut, he realizes she's genuinely striking a deal, not just parroting adult phrases. The Duke is clearly impressed by this child, as Aerin confidently summarizes her pitch. He has nothing to lose. Aerin confidently repeats her assertion that her grandfather has nothing to lose by agreeing to her proposal. The Duke contemplates Aerin's bold claim, tapping his finger thoughtfully. The Duke summons Viscount Deuce, who responds with a prompt "Yes, Your Grace." He inquires about available mana stones, and Deuce confirms they have enough for about 50 magical instruments. The Duke then turns to a surprised Aerin, proposing they proceed with her plan using the available mana stones. Aerin is ecstatic, asking if he's serious, while a stunned Viscount Deuce questions the Duke's sudden decision. As Viscount Deuce begins to voice his concerns, the Duke calmly interrupts, stating he hasn't finished speaking. The Duke points to Aerin's notepad, asking if the depicted instrument is the one she wants to sell first, and she eagerly confirms. He instructs Aerin to start by making a prototype, promising to provide assistance, which makes her beam with joy. The Duke tasks a still-dazed Viscount Deuce with distributing the items to capital stores once ready, suggesting 50 units for display. Viscount Deuce agrees, but reasonably asks to know what product he will actually be selling. The Duke echoes Aerin's earlier claim, describing the product as something currently unfamiliar, but with high future demand. The Duke then quotes Aerin's confident assertion that even he, the Duke, would want one of these instruments, relaying it to Deuce. He gives Aerin the green light to proceed with her project, expressing anticipation for her results. Aerin beams with pure joy and gratitude, thanking her grandfather effusively for this opportunity. She internally celebrates her gamble, deeming it a huge success and a worthwhile risk taken. She pragmatically accepts that according to their deal, all profits from the instrument sales will go to Duke Raffern, not her. Her primary goal is met. If the instruments sell, her place in Jeffrey's lab and his research are secure. Relieved of the burden of market capture, Aerin can now focus on the crucial step of creating instruments that attract buyers. Aerin happily plans to quickly finish Jeffrey's notes, so she can dedicate her remaining time to manufacturing the goods. She pauses in her work, a sudden, curious thought striking her. She realizes she's doing her usual tasks, yet for some reason, the work feels unusually enjoyable today. She wonders if it's relief, but acknowledges that her precarious situation regarding adoption and the Duke's trial period hasn't truly changed. Despite the lingering uncertainties, Aerin can't shake the overwhelming and pleasant feeling that everything, for once, is going remarkably well. A young man, Alphonse, approaches Aerin, expressing gladness at finding her, to which she responds with slight surprise. Alphonse introduces himself as one of the librarians, recalling a previous brief meeting and formally greeting Lady Aerin. Aerin doesn't recall Alphonse from her previous life, surmising he worked at the library before her time as a secretary or during a period she didn't visit. Politely, Aerin returns the greeting, and Alphonse courteously reciprocates the pleasantry. Aerin assumes Alphonse is looking for Jeffrey, but he clarifies he's there to deliver books Jeffrey had ordered. Curious about his books, Aerin turns as Alphonse gestures for her to look. She is utterly flabbergasted by the enormous mountain of books piled on the cart, all ordered by Jeffrey. Alphonse then informs Aerin he also has a message for her from Lord Jeffrey, which surprises her. Jeffrey's message, relayed by Alphonse, states that this time, the books are a gift for her to keep, not merely a loan. The message concludes with a typically nonchalant instruction to toss them in a corner if she doesn't want them, leaving Aerin pondering his words. Despite Jeffrey's casual dismissal, Aerin is struck by the sheer quantity of books he has generously given her. She notices he even included a new copy of a book she presumably had before, or had borrowed and lost. Aerin tries to decipher Jeffrey's motives, wondering if the gift is encouragement to study harder or a subtle reprimand for mishandling borrowed items. Unsure of his intentions, she recalls Jeffrey's earlier comforting words that she had done nothing wrong that day. Despite her uncertainty about his reasons, Aerin finds that receiving the numerous books gives her a pleasant, comforting feeling. Jeffrey, drenched and mudded from an apparent fall, makes a dry, literal observation about his run of bad luck. He strides into what is supposed to be the Empire's premier research center, utterly disgusted and unimpressed by its state. He scoffs at their sole achievement, a crystal with merely similar properties to what he seeks, deeming their efforts a joke. He views this pitiful result as yet another frustrating failure in the ongoing research. A researcher attempts to placate the visibly frustrated Jeffrey, acknowledging his feelings, but implying his demands are unreasonable. The researcher bluntly states that Jeffrey's request to immediately identify the composition of a charred fragment is simply ridiculous. Jeffrey, resolute, declares he'll figure it out himself, contemptuously comparing the head researcher's excuses to Aerin's 7-year-old proficiency. He reflects on Aerin, acknowledging that her assistance has finally enabled his research to show some progress. He notes that Aerin handles her assigned tasks with an ease that suggests they are well within her capabilities, perhaps even too easy. Jeffrey observes that Aerin never seems bored, despite the potentially tiring nature of working in the lab all day long. This leads him to contemplate the idea of training Aerin as a formal apprentice. He mulls over Aerin's education, considering sending her to an academy, but then deciding it might be better to tutor her himself first, given her young age. 2 weeks after her pivotal meeting with Duke Havenik, Aerin enjoys a moment of peace, having accomplished an astonishing amount of work. She reflects on her whirlwind, jam-packed schedule of the past 2 weeks, filled with lab work, meetings, and Mana science studies. Having finally completed all the work Jeffrey left for her, Aerin's only task is to finish her current book before his expected return that evening. Marie expresses surprise that Aerin isn't resting, but Aerin, engrossed in her book, considers reading a form of rest. Marie insists Aerin needs to play outside in the garden, emphasizing that children require fresh air and activity. Aerin is reluctant, wanting to finish her book, but Marie reminds her of the time she previously spent cooped up due to illness. Marie gently but firmly encourages Aerin to go outside and get some sunlight, pulling at her arm. Aerin reflects that, as a 7-year-old, it would be unwise to push her body too hard and risk falling ill again. Considering Marie's advice and her own well-being, Aerin decides to go for a short walk in the garden. Stepping outside, Aerin appreciates the beautiful weather and the lovely garden scene. She enjoys the blooming flowers and their fragrance, glad she listened to Marie and ventured outdoors. Aerin overhears a familiar voice from a nearby gazebo, Syria, Havenik's wife, sternly instructing her attendant about the importance of them succeeding this year. Recognizing Syria, Aerin notes with some irony that they at least share an understanding of the Duke's capricious favor. Aerin's attention then shifts to the man accompanying Syria, likely an attendant or tutor. She observes Syria discreetly handing something, probably a bribe, to her attendant. Aerin suspects foul play as Syria tells the attendant he'll receive the rest once their admission is finalized. Syria issues a firm, uncompromising order to her attendant: ensure they pass, no matter what it takes. The attendant readily assures Syria that he understands her implicit instructions perfectly and will carry them out. The attendant confirms the initial payment is sufficient to secure their place, and Syria, satisfied, moves to another topic. Syria then feigns concern for the boys, thanking the attendant for his devotion as their teacher while handing him another pouch. The attendant humbly deflects her praise, and Syria, with a dismissive "you're too modest," bids him farewell. The attendant departs quickly, and Syria, noticing Aerin, turns her attention towards the child. Syria calls out, chastising Aerin for not greeting her elders, clearly having seen her observing. Aerin feigns surprise and offers a cheerful good morning, innocently asking how long Syria has been there. She continues her innocent act, claiming she was distracted by a butterfly, though Syria looks entirely unconvinced. Syria, likely not believing Aerin but not wishing to engage further, curtly dismisses her, and Aerin quickly scampers off. Aerin is completely taken aback, questioning what she has just overheard. She processes the shocking revelation: the Havenik brothers secured their place at the Imperial Academy through bribery. She pieces together that the man conversing with Syria about admissions must be Hilberg, a tutor for the Brauno family. Aerin can hardly believe her ears. Hilberg, of all people, was the one who facilitated Avalon and Vimal's illicit entry into the academy. Suddenly, it all clicks into place for Aerin. This explains how someone as inept as Avalon gained admission. His consistent poor performance, repeating years, and barely managing to graduate now make perfect sense. Aerin clenches her fists in frustration, wishing she possessed a Manhwa voice recorder to capture the damning conversation she just overheard. Despite the lack of a recording, Aerin smirks, realizing that the knowledge of this bribery scandal could prove to be quite advantageous in the future. Startled, Aerin turns as Kaizen calls out, having located her. Kaizen politely greets Lady Aerin, requesting she accompany him to the master's office. Aerin exclaims Kaizen's name in acknowledgement. Rafern awaits in his office, having summoned Aerin. Aerin skips into the office, cheerfully greeting her grandfather, Rafern, who warmly invites her in. Kaizen stands by respectfully. Rafern informs a curious Aerin that he has called her to discuss an interim payment, leaving her to wonder what that entails. Wow! Aerin exclaims, genuinely impressed, declaring the newly crafted item far exceeds her expectations as a beautifully designed object is presented. Rafern acknowledges Aerin's previous name for the device, a portable hairdryer, and prompts her to test it. Aerin eagerly agrees, ready to try it out. Aerin muses that since hair drying tools are already commonplace, this new invention shouldn't appear too outlandish to the public as she prepares to activate it. The device whirs to life, and Aerin's face lights up with delight. She remarks that its true brilliance is revealed through prolonged use. Rafern confirms her assessment, stating there's already significant interest in the item. Aerin, intrigued, asks him to elaborate on this demand. Rafern reveals the initial batch of 50 units sold out the moment they were made available. Aerin is visibly astonished by this rapid success. So quickly, Aerin exclaims in surprise, while Rafern calmly affirms that is indeed the case. Rafern explains that once they advertised the dryer's ability to maintain consistent temperature and prevent overheating, young noblewomen eagerly signed up to buy one, adding it's been a while since Deuce showed such excitement. Aerin feels a surge of pride. Aerin clenches her fist, filled with triumph. This resounding success is exactly the outcome she envisioned when proposing this item. The narrator explains that current air blowers are bulky, need a servant to operate, involve a risky heating and cooling process, and are generally user-unfriendly. Conversely, this new dryer is lightweight, allows adjustable heat, and gained swift popularity as one of the pioneering Mana instruments, with users praising its varied settings. Aerin reflects that while only the aristocracy can afford them now, she's certain affluent ladies will deem it a worthwhile investment. Rafern, his chair creaking slightly, observes Aerin with newfound respect, admitting he hadn't realized her aptitude for business. Rafern clarifies he termed it an interim payment due to the remaining time before their deadline, but with everything sold, it's essentially the final payment. Rafern proposes manufacturing more dryers if Aerin concurs. She enthusiastically endorses the idea, deeming it excellent. Aerin silently hopes this triumph will prevent Rafern from shutting down the lab. Kaizen remarks that Lord Deuce will be thrilled, and Rafern smirks, picturing Deuce's delighted grin. Aerin internally wishes for Jeffrey to be left undisturbed to continue his research peacefully, which is crucial for her adoption. Rafern sips his tea. Rafern expresses his regret for having neglected Aerin for such a long time. Aerin, clutching her invention, is taken aback by his apology. Rafern continues, saying he should have conveyed this sentiment when they first met, and humbly asks for his granddaughter's forgiveness, gently touching her chin. Aerin reassures him with a smile, saying it's quite all right, and that she's happy they could finally converse. Rafern returns her smile. Rafern sets his teacup down with a soft clink, signaling he has more to discuss. As both an apology and a reward, Rafern offers Aerin the chance to formally study. Aerin looks utterly bewildered by the proposition. Aerin inwardly exclaims in disbelief. If he truly wants to reward her business acumen, tangible, materialistic rewards like money would be far more appropriate. Aerin pouts, asserting she's already diligently studying on her own. Rafern chuckles, amused by her childish declaration. Kaizen intervenes, clarifying to Lady Aerin that the Duke's intention is to foster her growth through a proper, formal education. Aerin internally frets that this isn't the direction she desired, while Kaizen offers her hot chocolate, and Rafern seems content with his decision. Aerin internally despairs, wondering how to make her grandfather understand her actual desires, which seem to diverge significantly from his plans for her. Hilberg enters, announcing his arrival and asking if His Grace summoned him. Aerin observes quietly. Rafern welcomes Hilberg and invites him to be seated, as Kaizen expresses hope that he hasn't caused any delay. Rafern assures Kaizen his timing is perfect. Hilberg gives a slight, nervous start as Aerin looks towards him. Aerin mentally notes Hilberg's evident surprise, wondering if he feared she would expose his misdeeds. She rather wishes she could, if only she had proof. Rafern formally introduces Aerin as the child he had previously mentioned. Hilberg, still surprised, confesses he had mistaken her for a child from an auxiliary family. Rafern praises Aerin's apparent brightness, just as he described to Hilberg, and entrusts her education to him, confident in her quick learning abilities. Hilberg respectfully accepts. Rafern prompts Aerin to introduce herself to Hilberg, identifying him as one of the teachers. He explains Hilberg will oversee her studies until her future path is determined. Aerin thoughtfully considers this new arrangement. Aerin curtsies gracefully, introducing herself as Aerin Brauno and wishing Sir Hilberg a good day with a bright smile. Rafern beams with pride at Aerin's impeccable manners, remarking she likely won't require etiquette lessons. Hilberg applauds, impressed. Kaizen, holding his teacup, interjects with a subtle, knowing you never know, implying unpredictability. Kaizen expresses his hope that Lady Aerin will excel and secure the top position at the Imperial Academy. Rafern considers this a strong possibility, while Aerin is inwardly aghast at the high expectations. Hilberg, already envisioning future triumphs, tells Rafern he will have much to anticipate on Parent Visitation Day. Rafern, equally enthusiastic, corrects that the admissions ceremony comes first. Aerin, perplexed by their fervent discussion about her academic achievements, silently wonders what on earth they are so excited about. She internally panics. If her adoption doesn't proceed as planned, she'll be in serious trouble, especially since they're already discussing the Imperial Academy. Jeffrey surveys his impeccably organized lab, declaring it perfect, a testament to Aerin's diligent efforts while he was away. Jeffrey expresses his astonishment that Aerin managed to sort through all his papers during his absence. Aerin shyly admits she became absorbed in the task and completed it all. Aerin proudly informs Jeffrey she finished the book he lent her and vows to study the new ones with equal diligence. Jeffrey responds with an affirming, "Of course you will." A sudden, troubling thought strikes Aerin. Attending classes will mean she can no longer visit the lab daily. Aerin realizes she must inform Lord Jeffrey about her upcoming class schedule and the days she'll be unable to assist him. Jeffrey turns to Aerin with a serious expression, stating he has something important to discuss with her. Suddenly, Jeffrey storms into Rafern's office, his voice laced with anger and a sense of doom, demanding to know who authorized Rafern to dictate his assistant's education. Rafern leaps to his feet, incensed by Jeffrey's audacity, exclaiming at his insolent behavior. Aerin watches, startled by the sudden confrontation. Jeffrey counters, questioning Rafern's own manners, and asserting that Rafern overstepped by interfering with his assistant's affairs. Rafern glares fiercely, retorting that a child needs proper schooling, not to be put to work. Jeffrey scoffs, sarcastically questioning if Rafern believes he's been mistreating Aerin or forcing her into labor. Kaizen observes the escalating tension. Rafern accuses Jeffrey of neglecting a 7-year-old in his laboratory with papers, when she ought to be experiencing the world and learning. Slamming his fist on the table, Rafern declares he won't tolerate another sullen recluse like Jeffrey in the household and orders him to leave. Aerin, witnessing the heated exchange, scowls slightly, a knot of anxiety forming as she wonders what she should do. She reflects on how she impulsively followed Jeffrey, and now ponders if Rafern harbors significant pent-up frustration towards him. Jeffrey stands firm, declaring that Aerin's education and future are his responsibility, as she is officially his aide. Rafern, his patience worn thin, grits his teeth and states he will no longer indulge Jeffrey's stubborn defiance. Rafern shouts, reiterating he won't allow Jeffrey to have his way. Aerin flinches, sensing the situation is rapidly deteriorating. Aerin's heart sinks. If the Duke banishes Jeffrey, all her efforts to secure her place will have been in vain. She hesitantly attempts to speak. Aerin summons her courage, realizing that inaction will only lead to a worse outcome. She must intervene. Aerin feels an immense pressure, anxiously wondering if there's any way to satisfy both her grandfather and Jeffrey simultaneously. She internally debates. She values her role as Jeffrey's assistant, but also cannot discard the educational opportunity offered by the Duke. Rafern looks taken aback by her attempt to speak. Aerin despairs, caught between two powerful figures, certain that any choice she makes will alienate one of them. Jeffrey argues Aerin, is too young for formal academies, and insists her education falls under his purview. He maintains Aerin can be taught within the family for the time being, emphasizing his unique understanding of her intelligence. As Aerin tentatively tries to mediate, Rafern shouts that he, too, recognizes Aerin's intelligence, not just Jeffrey. Both men, consumed by their argument, turn and yell at Aerin to be quiet, their voices thundering in the room. Kaizen gently intervenes, suggesting Lady Aerin follow him, attempting to shield her from the escalating conflict. Jeffrey, his heart pounding, fiercely declares that he is responsible for Aerin. Rafern, equally agitated, retorts that Jeffrey's claim is absurd, as he can barely manage himself, let alone a child. The intensity of the argument overwhelms Aerin, and tears begin to stream down her face. Kaizen calls out to her, concerned. Sobbing, Aerin apologizes, blaming herself for the conflict. Her distress momentarily silences Jeffrey and Rafern, their anger abating. Jeffrey gently comforts Aerin, softly apologizing and wiping her tears, his previous anger replaced by concern. Jeffrey lifts Aerin into his arms, deciding to remove her from the stressful confrontation, and says, "Come on, let's go." Back in the lab, Jeffrey offers Aerin a calming drink, hoping to soothe her frayed nerves. Aerin sniffles, reflecting that controlling her emotions has become significantly more challenging since her transformation into a child. She silently admits her surprise at her own strong reaction, not expecting to cry merely from witnessing an argument between adults. Jeffrey expresses his remorse, apologizing sincerely for having frightened her with their earlier outburst. Aerin starts to ask about her grandfather, but Jeffrey reassures her they can discuss it later, emphasizing their anger was not directed at her. Jeffrey tells Aerin he has something to show her, piquing her curiosity. He presents a dusty, unassuming box, leaving Aerin to wonder about its contents. Aerin, her playful cat-like features appearing, wonders if Jeffrey is showing off palace work, hoping he doesn't think she's as work-obsessed as he. The box opens to reveal a lavish assortment of confections from the renowned Alice Bakery, a place so exclusive even royalty must book ahead. Aerin is astounded. Jeffrey sheepishly explains he could only procure a small selection due to time constraints. With a gentle smile, Jeffrey ruffles Aerin's hair, cautioning her not to indulge in too many sweets at once. Aerin nods happily. Aerin selects a macaron, and Jeffrey observes with relief that her spirits seem to have lifted. Now content, Aerin prompts Jeffrey to recount what transpired with her grandfather. Jeffrey begins to explain his tense meeting with Rafern, but Aerin clarifies she's curious about something else entirely. Jeffrey abruptly asks Aerin if Havenik visited the lab during his absence. He repeats the question with a serious look, wanting to know if Havenik came by while he was away. Aerin, puzzled by the unexpected inquiry about Havenik, confirms he did not visit, and questions Jeffrey's reason for asking. Jeffrey reveals he heard the family plans to produce one of the blueprint designs Aerin gave him, recalling Havenik's prior enthusiasm for the idea. Aerin silently sighs, concerned Jeffrey might be upset about the designs being commercialized, despite his earlier permission for her to use them freely. Aerin enthusiastically clarifies she wanted to see the designs actualized, and her grandfather kindly assisted with the production. Jeffrey, surprised, confirms if the initiative was entirely hers, not Rafern's. Aerin affirms this and adds they intend to produce the remaining designs as well. Aerin seeks Jeffrey's approval for producing the designs, acknowledging his ownership, but hoping for his blessing. Jeffrey eyes her suspiciously, questioning if she acted entirely on her own accord. Aerin vehemently denies any external influence with vigorous nods. Aerin keeps her true motivations hidden: the financial gain and lab protection, as Jeffrey reveals he has filed all patents in her name. The mention of patents surprises her. Aerin imagines Jeffrey praising her as the genius behind the Mana instruments, envisioning future profits from sales and licensing. She beams at this delightful prospect. Jeffrey clarifies that Rafern informed him of these arrangements, then sternly asks Aerin who authorized her to proceed with these plans. Aerin explains patenting was her idea to secure her inventor status, secretly motivated by the need for a backup plan if the lab faced closure. She chooses not to reveal her pragmatic contingency plan, fearing it would reignite Jeffrey's conflict with the Duke, and instead cheerfully tells him to focus on his research. Jeffrey sighs, remarking that Aerin consistently manages to astonish him. The scene then shifts, indicating a passage of a few days. A narrator explains that after a contentious discussion, Jeffrey and Rafern reached a compromise, agreeing to follow Aerin's proposal for the time being. Consequently, Aerin received permission to continue as Jeffrey's assistant while also attending family-run classes, a resolution mediated by Kaizen between the still displeased Jeffrey and Raffarin. Raffarin gently pats Aerin's head, assuring her there will be ample time later to consider her long-term future. Jeffrey, looking displeased, interjects that it's premature for Aerin to consider the Imperial Academy or other schools. Aerin recalls Jeffrey's subdued reaction to her feigned excitement about classes. He simply asked her to share what she learns, to which she enthusiastically promised high grades. The narrator announces that the anticipated day has finally arrived. A maid carefully adjusts Aerin's uniform bow, wishing her an enjoyable experience at the academy. The maid reminds Aerin to immediately inform her teacher if she has any accidents or injures herself. Aerin, brimming with excitement, confirms she will and proudly announces it's her first day at the Brauno Academy with the family tutors. The Brauno family's educational instruction is customarily conducted at their dedicated academy. Most attendees are direct descendants, though children from auxiliary families can gain admission through rigorous testing. Aerin observes her new classmates. Aerin resolves to foster good relations with everyone, as they are all Braunos, and begins to look for an available seat. A cheerful boy approaches, correctly identifying her as the new student from the direct family line. Aerin, momentarily disoriented by the bright light, greets the approaching boy with a polite hello. The boy warmly introduces himself as Fredelman and extends his hand for a handshake. Fredelman shares that he is 10 years old and has been at the castle for about a month. Aerin experiences a jolt of recognition. Fredelman. She recalls Fredelman's future renown as a brilliant and handsome swordsman of the Imperial Knighthood, a celebrated figure whose name was known throughout society. Aerin introduces herself as 7 years old, and they shake hands, both expressing pleasure at the meeting. Fredelman's amiable expression suddenly hardens as he glances past Aerin, curtly remarking, "Oh, they are here." The Havenik twins, Avalon and Weimel, aggressively shove another boy aside, rudely demanding he move. Fredelman clenches his fist in annoyance at their behavior, while Aerin thinks with concern, "Wait." Aerin recognizes the timid, bullied boy as Nux Brauno, destined for a different kind of fame than Fredelman, looking visibly distressed. Nux, she remembers, will eventually be appointed as a high mage for the Imperial Palace. The narrator explains that mana scientists like Jeffrey can function as mages by utilizing mana stones. However, true mages, those born inherently possessing mana, operate on an entirely superior level of power. Aerin reflects on the high esteem afforded to mages in the Etuner Empire, noting the long period since the Empire last saw a truly competent one. Nux, a late bloomer in his abilities, would rapidly ascend the ranks to become the preeminent mage of his era. Aerin is dismayed by the realization that such a significant future figure is currently subjected to heartless bullying by the Havenik twins. She wonders why Nux hasn't informed his parents, particularly his father Modeli, who would undoubtedly be furious, fearing Nux's potential might be stifled. Fredelman steps forward, admonishing the twins to stop, as they are clearly hurting Nux. Aerin watches the intervention. The twins contemptuously dismiss Fredelman, telling him to mind his own affairs and leave. The Havenik twins then spot Aerin, mockingly taunting her as the leech, and making childish faces. Fredelman asks Aerin if she knows the twins. She vaguely confirms some acquaintance. Avalon sneers about another undeserving brat, while Aerin internally scoffs at his hypocrisy. Avalon forcefully shoves Aerin, claiming the seat she approached is his, causing her to cry out. A teaching assistant enters the classroom, offering a cheerful morning greeting to the young lords and ladies. The assistant expresses her hope that all the students are doing well today as she proceeds to the front. Avalon rudely questions the assistant's presence and asks if the teacher is late again. She explains Mr. Hilberg was unexpectedly delayed and class is postponed. The assistant relays Mr. Hilberg's instructions for the students to read specific books by the following day. One student groans, complaining about having to read boring old books yet again. Aerin looks at the assigned texts. Fredelman checks Aerin's hand to ensure she wasn't injured by Avalon's shove. The assistant departs, and Aerin wonders if she's deliberately ignoring the bullying. Aerin muses that the assistant's silence might be a prudent, if unfortunate, necessity given her subordinate position to the noble children. Aerin reflects that, ultimately, only those with authority adults, or influential Brauno family members, possess the power to effect real change. Avalon spots Nux and eagerly calls out to him, suggesting they resume their game of playing horse, much to Vimal's apparent irritation. Aerin climbs onto a chair, announcing she will distribute the assigned books to the class. She cheerfully asks who needs a book. Several students, including the Havenik twins, raise their hands expectantly. Avalon shouts at Aerin, again calling her a leech, and rudely telling her to leave as there is no class. Aerin firmly states her intention to stay and finish her book. Avalon, infuriated, stomps his foot, retorting that the classroom is not her personal lounge. Avalon yells that the classroom is exclusively for Brauno family children, raising his fist menacingly towards Aerin. Aerin, now sporting her feisty cat-eared persona, mentally smirks, thinking Avalon is at least smart enough not to physically attack her. Fredelman observes, holding his book. Nux points out to Fredelman that they have already read the assigned book in a previous class. Fredelman concurs, realizing Nux is correct. Nux finds the error peculiar, noting that Alphonse, the assistant, has never made such a mistake with their books before. Alphonse is seen walking away. Modely Brauno summons Alphonse into his office, curtly asking about her tardiness. Alphonse nervously explains that Mr. Hilberg tasked her with delivering books to the academy, which caused her delay. Modely listens, his expression unreadable. Modely, flipping through some documents, questions Alphonse about the whereabouts of the lab notes, noting her empty hands. Alphonse informs him that Lord Geoffrey no longer works in the library and has relocated all his papers to his personal lab. Modely inquires when this change occurred. Alphonse reveals that this shift coincided with Lady Aerin beginning her work as Geoffrey's assistant. Modely appears contemplative. Modely probes further, asking if Aerin is engaged in any special tasks at the lab. Alphonse hesitates, visibly reluctant to disclose details. Modely slams his hand on the desk, impatiently demanding Alphonse speak truthfully and cease any attempts at evasion. Alphonse, startled, insists she isn't trying to deceive him, but fears he won't believe her. Modely sternly asserts that he will be the judge of her credibility, leaving Alphonse no choice but to answer. Alphonse reveals that Lady Aerin has been meticulously reviewing Lord Geoffrey's notes and correcting errors. Modely expresses disbelief that brat possesses such capability. Alphonse elaborates that Aerin is tackling complex equations mentally, tasks that would challenge even experienced teaching assistants from other institutions. Modely, absorbing this astonishing information, can only utter a surprised, "You don't say." He silently wonders if Aerin shares Geoffrey's genius-level intellect. Syria voices her confusion and disapproval of Rafern's decision to send Aerin to the family academy. She shudders with revulsion, recalling Aerin's previous crafty actions against her son, Avalon. Syria presses Modely, asking if he has discovered the reason behind his father's sudden and intense interest in Aerin. Modely throws Syria an exasperated glare, clearly irritated by her incessant questioning. Syria meets his glare with defiance, challenging him with a sharp "so what?" Modely reveals the family has profited significantly from one of Geoffrey's blueprints, an idea initially proposed by Aerin. Syria is stunned by this revelation. Syria demands to know how Modely lost control of Geoffrey's blueprints, which he had previously claimed as his own. Modely defensively explains he merely stated an intention to take them. Modely sighs in exasperation, admitting he never anticipated anyone would bother with such useless-looking documents. Syria criticizes Modely for not securing a contract from Geoffrey and speculates about Geoffrey's motives for giving Aerin the blueprints, wondering if it's a form of inheritance. Modely dismisses the inheritance theory, as Aerin isn't Geoffrey's daughter, but Syria argues this very fact makes the situation even more suspicious. Modely concedes there might be a larger, hidden agenda at play that they are currently unaware of. Syria theorizes that Rafern and Geoffrey might have a secret pact, using Aerin as a pawn or a distraction. She suggests this could explain why Aerin is consistently placed in prominent situations, a thought that makes Modely frown pensively. Modely abruptly stands, declaring Syria's constant worrying is exasperating him. She retorts, questioning if he can blame her when he seems utterly oblivious. Modely is visibly offended at being called a fool. Syria sighs, clarifying her remark was directed at his apparent inaction regarding the situation. Syria approaches Modely, acknowledging his frustration, but stressing the urgent need for them to strategize their next move. She grips Modely's tie intently, warning him that while his father and brother are often at odds, they could unite, and he must uncover their plans before that happens. Modali appears thoughtful, but expresses skepticism about any grand conspiracy, still holding onto his initial assessment. He believes the conflict is merely a petty squabble over Aerin's perceived usefulness, recalling their recent, childish argument. However, a new thought occurs to Modali. If his father is indeed showing such keen interest in Aerin, a calculating grin spreads across Modali's face as he considers the possibilities. Possibilities, he muses, aloud that Aerin might just be an undiscovered prodigy. He then curtly dismisses Alphonse, who looks momentarily surprised. Modali impatiently reiterates his dismissal. Alphonse bows respectfully and prepares to depart. Just as Alphonse reaches the door, Modali calls out, indicating he has one final instruction. He commands Alphonse that the next time she is summoned, she must bring at least 1 page of Geoffrey's research notes. With a menacing glare, Modali warns Alphonse of dire consequences should she dare to return empty-handed again. Alphonse, as she leaves Modali's oppressive presence, realizes with growing unease that she has become entangled in a far more complex and dangerous situation than she initially anticipated. She sees Aerin and the others in the library. Alphonse approaches the children, politely inquiring if they need assistance finding a book. Aerin, Nux, and Fredelman are all holding texts. Geoffrey appears suddenly, his tone stern as he demands to know why Alphonse is away from her duties during work hours. Alphonse stammers in surprise at Lord Geoffrey's unexpected appearance. He, holding a book, questions her startled reaction. Alphonse nervously claims she hadn't expected him. The children quickly explain they sought Alphonse's help with books, believing she had brought incorrect ones. Nux clarifies that they had already covered a history of the Empire in their previous lesson, and were seeking the subsequent volume. Alphonse quickly improvises, stating Mr. Hilberg wished to restart with the first volume to allow Lady Aerin to catch up with the class. She adds that she's certain Mr. Hilberg also intended for the other students to review the material, a sentiment echoed by an imaginary miniature Hilberg. The children seem to accept her explanation. Aerin, however, interjects with genuine surprise, stating that she has, in fact, already read the book in question. Alphonse feigns surprise at Aerin's diligence. Aerin explains it was among the books Geoffrey had provided her, though she privately acknowledges she might not recall every detail. Nux and Fredelman express their astonishment, admitting the book was challenging and tedious for them. Aerin, however, found it quite engaging. Geoffrey, observing the exchange, suggests that since the book situation seems resolved, Aerin should join her friends and go outside. Aerin questions this. Alphonse seizes the opportunity, requesting Geoffrey's assistance in locating a book for herself. Aerin understands, bids Geoffrey farewell until their lab meeting, and prepares to leave with Alphonse, who appears relieved. Geoffrey questions Alphonse about her earlier visit to the academy and inquires about Aerin's well-being there. Alphonse reports that Aerin appeared to have quickly befriended the young lords she was with. Geoffrey then asks about the other students. Alphonse hesitantly reveals Aerin seemed to experience some trouble with Lord Avalon. Geoffrey astutely surmises Avalon had been bullying her again. Alphonse advises Geoffrey to monitor the Havenik brothers during his next academy visit to prevent further bullying of Aerin. Geoffrey's gaze intensifies as he instructs Alphonse to immediately report any future attempts by anyone to harm or harass Aerin. Alphonse internally panics, wondering if Modali's demands for information count as harm, and lamenting her precarious position as an unwilling intermediary in their conflicts. Despite her internal turmoil, Alphonse outwardly assures Geoffrey she will comply, feeling increasingly like a double agent caught in a web of intrigue. Fredelman enthusiastically suggests a race to the classroom, much to Aerin's surprise and Nux's slight breathlessness. Fredelman checks if Aerin has her belongings ready. She confirms, and they prepare to head to class. Fredelman reassures a nervous Nux that Avalon is not currently present in the classroom. Nux expresses his thanks, and Fredelman responds with a cheerful "of course." Aerin observes their interaction with a thoughtful expression. Fredelman turns to Aerin, asking if she isn't frightened of Avalon. He elaborates, pointing out Avalon's threats and aggressive actions towards her, yet she remained remarkably composed. Aerin nonchalantly dismisses the incident with Avalon as insignificant, leaving Fredelman quite surprised by her casual attitude. Fredelman steps closer, his admiration for Aerin evident. He praises Aerin's courage, noting she stood up to Avalon despite being younger and didn't flinch even when he was about to strike her. Nux confesses his own inability to confront the twins when they bully him, his voice filled with shame. Aerin gently asks Nux why he hasn't informed his parents about the bullying. Nux quietly admits he prefers not to tell them. Nux clutches his bag strap, looking down as Aerin presses for his reason. He quietly confesses his fear that his parents would be ashamed of him if they knew. Aerin listens with understanding. Nux proudly describes his father's trading expeditions on a grand ship. He extols his father, Modeli, as exceptionally brave and cool, never hesitant to voice his opinions, regardless of who he's addressing. Aerin mentally concurs, acknowledging Modeli's reputation as a shrewd and assertive businessman within the guild. Nux dejectedly admits Avalon frequently torments him simply because he lacks the courage to refuse, fearing his father would deem him a disgrace. Aerin empathizes with Nux's predicament, but seems to be formulating a plan. Aerin leans in conspiratorially, ready to share a secret with Nux and Fredelman. She whispers that both Avalon and Weimel still suffer from bedwetting. Fredelman struggles to contain his laughter, while Nux looks astonished. Fredelman, still chuckling, asks if this is truly the case. Aerin confirms, stating she overheard Lady Syria discussing it. Aerin confidently asserts her knowledge of the twins' embarrassing secret, gives her leverage over them, though she privately admits this is a slight exaggeration, but necessary for her current purpose. Her main objective is to empower Nux. She offers to intervene on his behalf, and even resort to biding the bullies if necessary. Aerin beams with confidence, declaring that Avalon doesn't intimidate her in the slightest. She extends a reassuring hand to Nux, inviting him to stay close to her for protection. Nux gratefully accepts her offer, and Fredelman enthusiastically joins their newly formed alliance against the bullies. Aerin skips happily, reflecting on another successful day and planning to foster more friendships tomorrow. Through a window, Aerin spots a group of unfamiliar individuals and curiously wonders about their identity. She observes that the visitors carry an air of unfamiliarity with the castle, suggesting they are not frequent guests. Modeli appears flustered and surprised by the unexpectedly early arrival of Duke Havenik and his entourage. Aerin's eyes widen in panic as she realizes the visitors are heading towards Havenik's office. She is completely unprepared for this turn of events. She resolves to reach Havenik's office first to subtly warn the Duke, and sprints off with determination. In her haste, Aerin stumbles and falls. A concerned voice asks if she is all right as a hand extends to help her. Aerin's heart sinks. She failed to arrive first. Havenik is already meeting with Modeli and Havenik, and now he's noticed her, questioning her presence. He calls out her name. Aerin nervously greets her grandfather. Havenik inquires about her rushed state, noting they had no urgent matters. Havenik politely acknowledges Lady Aerin. Havenik asks His Grace about the child's identity. Havenik introduces her as Aerin, the girl he had previously mentioned. Havenik adds that Aerin is of a similar age to Nux. Modeli, Nux's father, acknowledges this information with a nod. Havenik gestures for Aerin to approach. She complies, though her nervousness is palpable. Aerin, looking like she just finished her classes at the academy, hurries along with a determined stride. Duke Brauno explains that while he'd love to chat, he has guests, and kindly asks Aerin if she could wait outside for a bit. Aerin innocently inquires if she might be allowed to stay and listen to the discussion, prompting a thoughtful hum from Duke Brauno. With earnest enthusiasm, Aerin declares her desire to observe her grandfather at work, promising to behave perfectly and not cause any disruption, making Duke Brauno consider her plea. Baron Deuce intervenes, suggesting to Duke Brauno that allowing the little lady to join them is a fine idea, potentially offering her a valuable experience and perhaps even another brilliant insight. With a knowing wink towards Lady Aerin, Baron Deuce seeks her enthusiastic endorsement of his supportive suggestion. Aerin eagerly affirms her agreement. Baron Deuce beams with self-satisfaction at his successful intervention, while Duke Brauno appears to be mulling over the decision. Trunate, another guest, politely inquires if Aerin's presence would be acceptable, to which Havenik quickly and subserviently confirms that it is, of course, perfectly fine. Count Modeli observes the little lady's evident affection for her grandfather, acknowledging its loveliness, yet pragmatically adds it's acceptable as long as she remains quiet. Aerin internally sighs, keenly aware of how overtly Count Modeli displays his displeasure at her presence in the meeting. Aerin muses that she'd gladly abandon Havenik to whatever mess he creates, but her foreknowledge of the disastrous consequences This deal holds for the family compels her to intervene. Aerin recalls a crucial detail. Trunate, the man Havenik brought, is unforgettable because he previously defrauded Havenik of a substantial sum of money. The financial devastation caused by Trunate was so memorable, Aerin reflects, that his name is etched in her memory. She now watches the proceedings with silent, sharp attention, fueled by a simmering rage. Shared by her equally indignant cat familiar, Aerin vividly remembers the bitter feeling of relinquishing a financial resource that was rightfully hers. The realization that this conman, Trunate, who is already gloating over the anticipated wealth of the Mega Guild, intends to pilfer all that money, fills Aerin with righteous fury. Aerin's hands clench into determined fists as she silently vows that, under no circumstances, will she permit this fraudulent transaction to proceed on her watch. With her small fists still clenched in resolve, Aerin internally declares her unwavering intention to ensure this detrimental deal is thwarted. Duke Brauno directly addresses Trunate, requesting a clear explanation of the business proposal he has come to present. Duke Brauno mentions he's heard Trunate is affiliated with the Felfark Guild, a point Trunate readily confirms. Trunate, with a proud and self-important demeanor, formally introduces himself as the esteemed guild master of Felfark. Duke Brauno notes his understanding that Felfark's primary focus is intercontinental maritime trade rather than domestic operations. Trunate affirms this, adding they specialize in luxury goods for international markets. Trunate boasts about their dealings in antique art, bespoke leather goods, and rare tapestries, confidently assuming Duke Brauno is aware of their business, while the Duke maintains a composed, unreadable expression. As Trunate continues his lengthy exposition, Kaizen thoughtfully provides Aerin with a chair, allowing her to observe the unfolding discussion more comfortably. Duke Brauno, clearly weary of Trunate's rambling, gestures for him to summarize, pointedly asking if the Felfark Guild is proposing a partnership with the Cock Guild. Cutting to the chase, Duke Brauno asks if Trunate's objective is to import luxury goods into the Empire, a proposition to which Trunate eagerly assents. Duke Brauno shrewdly observes that Felfark appears self-sufficient and directly questions Trunate about the specific role he envisions for the Cock Guild in this venture. Trunate, rubbing his hands together with an air of feigned humility, explains that Felfark's success has been outside the Empire, leaving them inexperienced in domestic market matters. Count Modali seeks clarification, asking if Trunate is essentially requesting that the Cock Guild manage the distribution of these goods within the Empire. Trunate confirms this, adding logistics to their responsibilities. Count Modali lets out an exasperated sigh, pointedly asking what, precisely, Felfark intends to contribute while the Cock Guild shoulders both logistics and distribution. Duke Brauno, with a sharp tone and a decisive thump of his hand, reprimands Count Modali for his impertinent words. Count Modali, undeterred, expresses his genuine curiosity, noting that Felfark doesn't produce its own goods, and the Cock Guild already possesses robust distribution capabilities. Trunate, with Havenik looking slightly uneasy beside him, stresses the luxury nature of the goods, framing the deal as a vital opportunity to cultivate brand value. Baron Deuce attempts to diffuse the escalating tension, gently reminding the parties that they are not assembled to quarrel, while placing a calming hand on Aerin's head. Count Modali persists, detailing the complexities of managing luxury items and the significant risks posed by counterfeits, which could easily negate any potential profits. Baron Deuce seems to silently urge him to desist. Havenik interjects with forced confidence, asserting that it is time for their guild to pursue upscaling and prioritize quality, dismissing the inherent risks as an unavoidable aspect of progress. Duke Brauno observes the heated debate with a thoughtful and somewhat stern expression, weighing the arguments presented. Trunate attempts to dismiss Duke Brauno's concerns with a show of bravado, rhetorically asking who would dare attempt to deceive the illustrious Cock Guild with counterfeit goods. Havenik reacts with visible shock, exclaiming, "Father," as Duke Brauno announces that they will make a decision regarding the proposal after internal guild consultation. Duke Brauno reassures a visibly anxious Trunate not to be alarmed, promising a favorable review of the proposal and a definitive answer before his departure. Trunate, despite his internal dissatisfaction, manages a facade of understanding in response to Duke Brauno's decision. Havenik confidently assures Trunate there's no cause for concern, vowing to persuade his father to approve the deal. Trunate maintains a strained composure. Trunate, with a veneer of confidence, claims he harbors no worries about the deal's success, eliciting a sigh of relief from Havenik. Havenik visibly flinches, as Trunate pointedly adds he is certain the Duke would not refuse a business proposition from his eldest son. Trunate's expression darkens, as he mentions the considerable investment Felfark has already made in goods for this deal, subtly implying they cannot wait indefinitely and pressuring Havenik. Havenik, looking distinctly uncomfortable, cautiously inquires if Trunate is suggesting an advance payment is required. Trunate confirms an advance payment would be mutually beneficial for security, prompting a nervous Havenik to ask about the specific amount. Havenik is visibly stunned, questioning the exorbitant sum as Trunate calmly states that 10 million gold should be sufficient. Havenik exclaims in utter disbelief at the demand for 10 million gold, while Trunate placidly advises him not to be alarmed. Trunate casually reminds Havenik that they are dealing in high-value luxury items, so the price naturally reflects their worth. Havenik can only stammer a hesitant acknowledgement. Trunate, with a light tap on Havenik's arm, states he simply needs to arrange the funds soon, adding he won't rush him, a clear but subtle application of pressure. Havenik internally despairs over his recent financial setbacks, Aerin foiling his plans to monetize Jeffrey's designs, and the poor returns from his newly acquired mines. A wave of anxiety washes over Havenik as he considers that, at this rate, he will have no accomplishments to present at the upcoming House Council. Fueled by a desperate resolve, Havenik grimly determines that he absolutely cannot allow this opportunity to slip away, lest he face unbearable shame. His eyes gleam with a dark determination. Outwardly, Havenik capitulates, assuring Trunate he will procure the funds as swiftly as possible. Aerin, carefully reviewing a document, astutely deduces that Trunate has likely already broached the subject of an advance payment with Havenik. Aerin, feeling powerless to intervene directly in Havenik's dealings, realizes with grim determination that the only way to safeguard their finances is to prevent the entire deal from materializing. Jeffrey, noticing Aerin's troubled expression as she studies a scroll, inquires about her worries, while he himself is contemplating his next inventive design. Aerin sighs, privately wondering if any of Jeffrey's diverse designs could offer a solution to rid them of Trunate, even whimsically considering the notion of a lie detector. Aerin offers Jeffrey a piece of advice. If he finds himself stuck in his design process, he should begin by eliminating the least promising concepts. Jeffrey bluntly informs Aerin that, in his candid opinion, all the current designs seem rather useless, causing Aerin a moment of slight, awkward surprise. Jeffrey singles out a particular design, presenting it to Aerin and asking for her thoughts, while she peers at it, trying to discern its purpose. Aerin initially guesses the object is a walking stick, but Jeffrey, with comically exaggerated intensity, clarifies that its function is to differentiate between male and female animals. Jeffrey elaborates that he conceived the design impulsively, seeking a practical application for a newly discovered magic spell, and humorously demonstrates its intended use on chickens. Ultimately, Jeffrey found no practical application for his animal gender identification device and discarded it into a waste bin along with other abandoned projects. Aerin, holding the male-female identifier blueprint, reflects on Jeffrey's dismissal of its potential, while he reiterates his belief that the design holds no real value. Aerin, a thoughtful spark igniting in her eyes, challenges Jeffrey's assessment, pointedly asking if he is entirely certain the design is without merit. Aerin proposes that if such a device could determine whether an egg would hatch into a hen or a rooster, there would undoubtedly be considerable demand, prompting Jeffrey to consider the possibility. Jeffrey, thoughtfully stroking his chin, concedes that he has not tested the device on eggs and doubts its capability to differentiate them. Jeffrey explains the device is calibrated only for grown chickens and would struggle to even recognize an egg as a chicken, let alone determine its gender. Jeffrey reluctantly admits that, with sufficient effort, one might theoretically adapt the device to differentiate between eggs, a point Aerin acknowledges with a simple "I see." Aerin experiences a sudden, electrifying epiphany, her mind racing with the possibilities of using the device to differentiate between eggs. Aerin, her eyes sparkling with burgeoning excitement, eagerly implores Lord Jeffrey to elaborate on the concept of differentiating eggs in greater detail. Back in Duke Brauno's study, Count modally seethes, arguing that regardless of Felfark's attempts to embellish the proposal, Their underlying intent is for the Cock Guild to bear all the work while they reap the benefits. Baron Deuce mentions Felfark's track record of success in other nations, but Count Modely scoffs dismissively, revealing that their so-called luxuries are often sold alongside indistinguishable counterfeits. Baron Deuce concedes that the prevalence of counterfeit goods is indeed a fundamental and pervasive issue within that particular market. Duke Brauno sighs, concluding with weary resolve that if they are to proceed with this contentious deal, they must rigorously ensure the legitimacy of all goods to protect their guild's hard-won integrity. Aerin peeks tentatively around the doorframe, politely asking for permission to enter. Duke Brauno acknowledges her presence. Duke Brauno observes that Aerin's classes have concluded and inquires if she has come to see him again. She responds with a cheerful greeting and quickly enters the room. Aerin confirms she came to see him, adding a mysterious and also, which piques Duke Brauno's curiosity, prompting him to ask for clarification. Aerin excitedly announces that she has an idea she is eager to share with him. Havenik, walking alongside Trunate, confidently remarks that he anticipated his father wouldn't reject such a promising deal, questioning why else he would summon them again so soon. Havenik smugly assures Trunate he is certain they will finalize and sign everything today, to which Trunate smoothly agrees that such an outcome would be ideal. Havenik strides in and cheerfully announces his presence to his father. Upon noticing Aerin, Havenik's expression sours with visible annoyance and confusion, as he internally questions her presence there yet again. Duke Brauno calmly informs Havenik and Trunate that they have been expected and invites them to be seated. Duke Brauno begins to address Havenik and Trunate, stating that the reason he has summoned them today is to discuss the possibility of extending the timeline for the proposed contract, a suggestion that visibly surprises Trunate, who questions the need for an extension. Duke Brauno, taking a calm sip of his tea, explains his preference not to rush into significant commitments without due consideration. Duke Brauno elaborates that embarking on a major project necessitates a foundation of trust, prompting a visibly impatient Trunate to inquire how they might establish such trust. Duke Brauno gestures towards Aerin, indicating that she will be the one to explain the next step, as she steps forward confidently. Aerin, with a bright and innocent smile, offers a cheerful greeting to Mr. Trunate. Trunate, feigning delight, acknowledges the little darling from the previous day and inquires with saccharine sweetness what adorable idea she intends to share. Aerin, a subtle, knowing smirk playing on her lips, internally notes his condescending, adorable idea remark, anticipating that his amusement will soon vanish. Aerin politely inquires if Mr. Trunate has any product samples he could present to them, to which he hesitantly affirms that he does, but trails off. Aerin then requests that he leave some samples with them, explaining their decision to develop a mana-based instrument capable of verifying an item's authenticity, causing Trunate to visibly flinch and look alarmed. Trunate, now visibly sweating and gulping, stammers that he is not entirely sure he understands their intention. Trunate asks, with disbelief coloring his tone, if they genuinely intend to create a counterfeit detector. Aerin confirms this with an enthusiastic and affirmative, yes, exactly. Aerin elaborates that they possess a mana instrument known as a male-female identifier, and with minor modifications to its design, they can repurpose it into an effective counterfeit detector. Aerin significantly clarifies that when she says, "we," she is referring to Lord Geoffrey himself, a revelation that causes Trunate to react with a jolt, clearly recognizing Geoffrey's formidable reputation in such matters. Aerin inwardly observes Trunate's startled reaction, correctly inferring that he is aware of Geoffrey's foolproof design capabilities. Trunate appears increasingly nervous. Havenik, arms crossed and looking skeptical, demands to know why Geoffrey is suddenly involving himself, reiterating his belief that Geoffrey had no interest in the family's business affairs. Baron Deuce explains that Lord Geoffrey has recently been collaborating closely with Aerin, and upon her request regarding the deal, graciously agreed to lend his expertise. Aerin offers an innocent smile. Havenik, his expression downcast and his fist clenching, mutters a defeated "I see," and reluctantly concedes, "Well, if that's how it is." Duke Brauno proudly pats Aerin's head, commending her for conceiving such a timely and ingenious solution after merely listening to the adults' discussion. Aerin giggles, pleased with the praise. Duke Brauno, holding Aerin, casually inquires of Trunate if the mana instrument isn't yet complete. Trunate, looking cornered, confirms it isn't, but assures them a basic blueprint is ready and production will commence shortly. Trunate, gulping nervously but attempting a calm facade, tells them not to worry, stating they are simply exercising due diligence given the widespread concerns about counterfeit goods. Trunate stammers his understanding, his composure clearly shaken by this unexpected and unwelcome development. Trunate makes a conspicuously hasty exit, prompting a surprised Havenik to call out for him to slow his pace. Havenik, his voice laced with anger, confronts Trunate, demanding to know how he could make such a unilateral decision without prior consultation. Havenik insists Trunate at least provide an explanation for his abrupt departure without presenting any samples, especially given the Cock Guild's cautious approach. Trunate dismissively claims it's only natural they would require additional time to prepare suitable samples. Havenik counters that Trunate's carriage was laden with items he could have shown, but Trunate brushes them off as inadequate for the discerning Cock Guild. Havenik internally seethes, questioning the source of Trunate's sudden, inexplicable arrogance and overbearing demeanor. A chilling realization dawns on Havenik. Does he intend to approach another guild if this deal collapses? Trunate, meanwhile, maintains a smugly confident expression. Havenik curses inwardly, acknowledging the bitter truth that Felfark likely has numerous alternative guilds willing to engage in business with them. Havenik completely misreads Trunate's confident posture as a sign of having nothing to lose, blissfully unaware of Trunate's actual desperate financial predicament. The narrator dryly notes this assessment is 100% wrong. Havenik, now desperate and conciliatory, approaches Trunate, anxiously hoping he isn't overly disappointed by the recent turn of events. Trunate addresses him with cool detachment. Trunate, in a complete reversal of his earlier accommodating stance, curtly asks Havenik how soon he can arrange the advance payment. Havenik is stunned, reminding Trunate that just yesterday he had assured him there was no rush. Havenik hastily retracts his objection, profusely promising the funds will be ready immediately. Trunate, now dictating terms, states he doesn't require the full 10 million upfront, but expects whatever amount Havenik can gather as soon as possible, ostensibly to prepare samples for the Duke. Havenik, overjoyed by this perceived reprieve and Trunate's apparent willingness to proceed, eagerly assures him that payment will be made without delay. Havenik's wife, Ilya, reacts with shock and disbelief when he requests a substantial sum of money, exclaiming that she certainly doesn't carry such amounts on her person. Ilya questions why Duke Brauno isn't the one handling advance payments for guild business. Havenik then presses her about her emergency funds, emphasizing the significant sum that has been requested. Ilya indignantly retorts, asking if Havenik comprehends the considerable expense she incurred to secure Avalon's admission to the academy, before caustically suggesting he ask his father for the funds. Havenik slams his hand down emphatically, declaring that approaching his father for money is absolutely out of the question. Ilya exclaims that, for the Brauno family to request a 10 million gold loan from their in-laws would be a humiliating scandal, making them the subject of widespread ridicule. Havenik desperately attempts to placate Ilya, pleading that if he could just finalize this deal, but she dismissively cuts him off, clearly weary of his repeated, unfulfilled promises. Ilya continues her tirade, expressing her doubts about the deal's success and anxiously questioning what Havenik will do if his father discovers his machinations and disowns him, causing Havenik to tremble under the weight of her accusations. Ilya, startled by Havenik's visible distress, snaps defensively that his predicament is not her fault. Havenik bitterly complains that his father makes no effort to understand the immense pressure he is under, yet readily listens to every pronouncement from that brat Aerin. Ilya inquires if the brat Havenik is referring to is indeed Aerin, to which he confirms with palpable resentment. Havenik vents his frustration about Aerin's audacious plan to collaborate with Jeffrey on a counterfeit detector to scrutinize Felfark's goods, contemptuously mocking her presumptuous, know-it-all behavior. Ilya, her expression turning thoughtful and concerned, mulls over Jeffrey's renewed involvement in family business matters and feels a sense of foreboding. Havenik, agitated, grabs Ilya's robe, insisting they must take action. Ilya readily agrees, asserting they need to teach both Aerin and Jeffrey a lesson they won't soon forget. Havenik clarifies his true intention. They must, at all costs, drive a wedge between Jeffrey and Aerin, a suggestion that visibly piques Ilya's strategic interest. Havenik declares that if his brother, Jeffrey, continues to obstruct their ambitions, they must concoct their own counterplan, his face set in a look of grim determination. Ilya, a sinister glint in her eyes as she holds a flickering candle, coldly proclaims their new objective. They must wrest Aerin away from Jeffrey's influence and claim the child as their own. Aerin excitedly informs Lord Jeffrey that her grandfather has approved their idea and given them the green light to proceed with creating the counterfeit detector. Jeffrey calmly acknowledges the news. Jeffrey gently ruffles Aerin's hair, expressing his gladness that matters have resolved favorably for her plan. Jeffrey informs Aerin he will fetch today's dessert and invites her to take a seat, an offer she accepts with eager anticipation. Aerin, her curiosity piqued, asks Jeffrey if he isn't going to inquire about her intended purpose for the counterfeit detector. Jeffrey, engrossed in his papers, casually replies that as long as the device serves to satisfy her curiosity, her specific plans for its use are inconsequential to him. Aerin feels a wave of relief, having worried Jeffrey might be annoyed by her initiative without thorough consultation. She now wonders if his response signifies indifference or a newfound trust in her judgment. Jeffrey inquires about Aerin's recent academy classes. She explains that their teacher remains occupied, so the students are currently engaged in self-study. Aerin expresses her eagerness for formal classes to resume and her curiosity about Mr. Hilberg's curriculum. Jeffrey, adjusting his spectacles, reiterates his opinion that she has little to learn there. Jeffrey advises Aerin to view her time at the academy merely as a respite from her more significant work with him, a suggestion she cheerfully accepts. Aerin silently concurs with Jeffrey's assessment regarding the limited educational value the academy holds for her unique circumstances. Aerin internally reflects that her primary interest in attending the academy lies not in the lessons themselves, but in the valuable networking opportunities with the other children. Aerin strategizes that Hilberg's return will also mean the reappearance of other students who had been skipping self-study, necessitating a careful plan for whom to cultivate alliances with. Aerin also makes a mental note to remain vigilant for any suspicious activities from Hilberg, while simultaneously remembering to meticulously record the profits generated from the recent batch of Mana instruments. After diligently reviewing her notes, Aerin considers retiring to her room, her eyelids growing heavy with drowsiness. Aerin gasps, quickly covering her mouth, and apologizes for nearly succumbing to sleep. Jeffrey kindly reassures her that it is perfectly normal for children her age to feel tired. Jeffrey suggests Aerin take a restorative nap upstairs, offering to wake her later. Aerin, though weary, quietly agrees. Aerin reflects on the tendency for children to become sleepy, noting that while she possesses abundant energy for play, it seems to deplete far too quickly. Aerin sighs, snuggling under the covers, her mind still racing with the numerous tasks she needs to accomplish, feeling she cannot afford to waste any time resting. Duke Brauno arrives at Jeffrey's laboratory. Jeffrey, surprised by the visit, asks what brings his father there. The Duke states he has an important matter to discuss. Duke Brauno emphasizes the importance of their discussion and suggests they step inside the lab to speak privately. Aerin's eyes snap open as she distinctly overhears the name, Reincarnated Duke Brauno's given name uttered in the conversation below, a sense of alarm washing over her. Aerin, now fully awake and alert in her makeshift bed, anxiously wonders what critical matter Duke Brauno needs to discuss with Jeffrey. Duke Brauno inquires about Aerin's whereabouts. Jeffrey informs him she is currently asleep and suggests that if the matter concerns her, the Duke should return at a more opportune time. Duke Brauno clarifies that his business is directly with Jeffrey. Aerin's heart thumps nervously in her chest as she continues to eavesdrop. Jeffrey, clearly impatient and not inclined towards a lengthy discussion, curtly tells his father to get to the point, stating he also lacks time for idle chit-chat. Aerin, listening with growing alarm, fears that her grandfather and Jeffrey are on the verge of another major conflict, and quickly decides to feign waking up and go downstairs to intervene. Aerin is rendered speechless with shock as she hears Duke Brauno announce his intention to arrange for her formal adoption. Duke Brauno informs Jeffrey that the official announcement of Aerin's adoption will be made at this year's House Council, giving him advance notice. Aerin's heart pounds with a mixture of disbelief and burgeoning hope, as she wonders if Jeffrey is the one her grandfather intends to adopt her. Duke Brauno explains his reason for informing Jeffrey. He was concerned that Aerin finding a family might disrupt her work as Jeffrey's assistant. Jeffrey stoically asserts that her work will not be affected. Aerin, peeking through the balustrade, is utterly bewildered, realizing with a sinking feeling that Duke Brauno's visit was not to propose Jeffrey adopt her. Jeffrey remains silent, his expression unreadable. Jeffrey, his tone flat and unimpressed, asks his father if that was the sole purpose of his visit. Duke Brauno appears taken aback by his son's bluntness. Jeffrey reminds his father of his previous assurance that he would handle all matters concerning Aerin, and requests to be left undisturbed. Duke Brauno, visibly jolted by Jeffrey's dismissive attitude, angrily demands if Jeffrey is suggesting he continue to neglect Aerin's needs. Duke Brauno passionately argues that Aerin urgently requires a stable parental figure and cannot be left to live indefinitely like a drifter. Duke Brauno challenges Jeffrey directly, asking that if he genuinely cares for Aerin's welfare, who does he propose should become her new parents? Duke Brauno mentions he is currently considering several extended family members as potential adoptive parents for Aerin. Then Duke Brauno delivers the devastating news. Among the direct family, the primary candidate for Aerin's adoption is Jeffrey's older brother, Havenik. Aerin is visibly distressed, tears welling in her eyes. Jeffrey, his voice laced with controlled fury, confronts his father, questioning the hypocrisy of lecturing him on Aerin's well-being while simultaneously planning for Havenik to adopt her. Though he acknowledges Havenik's attempts to lead the family, Duke Brauno sharply retorts that Jeffrey has idled away the last 2 years in his laboratory, a criticism that visibly makes Jeffrey flinch. Jeffrey coldly poses a question to his father. Has it not occurred to him that allowing Aerin to remain in her current situation might be preferable to entrusting her to Havenik's care? Duke Brauno mutters with disbelief. Remain as she is, you say, clearly disagreeing with Jeffrey's assessment. Duke Brauno, his voice thick with emotion, poignantly asks Jeffrey if he would advocate for the same course of action if it were his own deceased daughter, Viola, they were discussing. Jeffrey is struck silent, the painful memory resurfacing. Aerin, overhearing the exchange, puzzlingly recalls that Viola was Jeffrey's daughter who tragically passed away. Duke Brauno contends that, while Jeffrey may believe he is adequately caring for Aerin, genuine care involves taking full responsibility, not merely offering empty assurances. He painfully recollects Viola perished in an explosion alongside her mother. Jeffrey, his voice devoid of emotion, coldly asserts that, in his father's eyes, Aerin is merely serving as a substitute for Viola. Duke Brauno shouts in anguish that Jeffrey's accusation is not just a mere hunch of his, fervently wishing that it were. Duke Brauno states it is common knowledge within the family that his third son, Reincarnated Jeffrey, has been languishing in his laboratory, haunted by the memory of his deceased wife and daughter. Duke Brauno expresses his profound weariness at witnessing Jeffrey squander his life in a futile search for a non-existent culprit behind the tragic accident. Duke Brauno, his fist clenching, declares with finality that he will not permit Jeffrey to continue playing house with a child who merely happens to be the same age as Viola was. Jeffrey remains stoically silent. Duke Brauno fiercely admonishes Jeffrey, asserting that he cannot exploit Aerin for his own emotional gratification. Aerin, witnessing the escalating intensity of the argument, panics, fearing that all her carefully laid plans are about to unravel. Suddenly, Duke Brauno is startled by an unexpected sound. Aerin, rubbing her eyes as if newly awakened, calls out Grandpa. From the landing above, Duke Brauno, momentarily flustered, apologizes for disturbing her. Aerin innocently inquires if her grandfather is there to discuss the counterfeit detector. Duke Brauno, caught slightly off guard, affirms this, stating he was curious about her progress. Duke Brauno gently suggests that Aerin, now that she is awake, should come downstairs and greet him properly. She meekly complies. Aerin, noticing Duke Brauno's prolonged sigh, innocently asks him why he seems so troubled. Aerin gently asks her grandfather if he is feeling very tired. He responds by patting her head reassuringly, insisting he is quite all right. Duke Brauno chuckles warmly, telling Aerin that she is the only one who genuinely cares for an old man like him, and sincerely thanks her for her concern. Aerin quietly agrees, internally acknowledging the Duke's kindness as a grandfather, yet a significant, unspoken concern lingers in her thoughts. Aerin, her heart filled with a gnawing anxiety, silently wonders if this means she will be forced to leave the laboratory. Her apprehension deepens as she repeats the dreadful thought of being separated from the lab, her gaze fixed on her grandfather with a mixture of fear and pleading. Duke Brauno gently pats Aerin's head, understanding immediately that she must have overheard parts of their earlier, heated conversation. Duke Brauno softly explains to Aerin that the purpose of her adoption is not to send her away, but rather to ensure she can remain close to them for a much longer time. Duke Brauno reassures Aerin not to worry, promising she will always be welcome to visit the lab as often as she wishes, regardless of who formally adopts her. Aerin internally frets, realizing the core issue is not lab access but the specific prospect of Havenik's adoption, and she briefly considers confiding in the Duke about the bullying she endures from Havenik's family. Aerin vividly imagines a disastrous sequence of events, revealing everything to the Duke, his subsequent angry interrogation of Havenik, Havenik's feigned apology, and then Havenik's terrifying, murderous retribution before the truth could be fully exposed. Aerin shudders violently at the chilling mental image of Havenik's wrath, realizing with absolute certainty that confiding in the Duke about Havenik's abuse would seal her doom if he ever found out. Aerin squirms uncomfortably, finding it incredibly difficult to articulate her deep-seated anxieties and objections to Duke Brauno. Duke Brauno, noticing her distress, gently inquires if she harbors some dislike for Havenik, a question that causes Aerin to flinch noticeably. Aerin hastily and emphatically denies any dislike for Havenik, waving her hands in a flurry of dismissal. Aerin fidgets, then reluctantly and quietly admits that it is actually Avalon and Vimel, Havenik's children, who harbor animosity towards her. Duke Brauno lets out a weary sigh, acknowledging that if Havenik's notoriously ill-behaved children are involved, he can readily imagine the unpleasantness of the situation. Duke Brauno then shifts the conversation, asking Aerin about her feelings and experiences regarding her time with Jeffrey. Aerin enthusiastically affirms her fondness for being with Lord Jeffrey, citing his kindness in providing her with daily desserts and a plentiful supply of books. Aerin internally censors herself, recognizing that admitting she profited from Jeffrey's blueprints would sound inappropriate for a child. She struggles to find alternative, innocent examples of his kindness. Aerin fondly recalls an instance where Jeffrey staunchly defended her against an unfairness, an act of kindness that warmed her deeply, like a comforting ray of sunshine. The Duke's earlier harsh accusation towards Jeffrey, "You cannot use Aerin for your own satisfaction," momentarily echoes, causing Jeffrey to flinch almost imperceptibly. Aerin earnestly and sincerely declares her genuine love for staying at the laboratory and engaging in research alongside Lord Jeffrey. Duke Brauno observes that Aerin's gentle and sincere responses exemplify the saying that a soft answer turns away wrath. He then reassures her to trust him, promising he will ensure the best possible family is found for her. Aerin quietly agrees, and following this pivotal conversation, a period of relative tranquility descends upon the household. Aerin lies peacefully beneath a tree, musing that while the Duke is likely evaluating potential adopters, she has yet to hear any news. The continued absence of Hilberg from class contributes to an unsettling feeling of calm before an impending storm, making her anxious. Nux leans in unexpectedly, startling Aerin from her reverie, and casually asks what she is currently occupied with. Aerin presents the book she is reading, titled Fundamentals of Business Management, Dream Big, Grow Big. Nux recoils slightly, exclaiming, "What is that?" and opining that it appears exceedingly difficult. Aerin, slightly flustered by Nux's reaction, insists that the book is, in fact, quite fascinating. Nux, his curiosity now piqued, asks her to elaborate on its subject matter. Aerin vaguely describes the book's content as being about how to sell stuff. Fredelman, appearing suddenly, interjects that it must be hard then, playfully accusing Aerin of not having even read it herself. Aerin explains that she has previously observed Fredelman's father, Count Modeli, reading this very same book. Aerin reasons aloud that since Fredelman's father frequently consulted the book, it must surely be a valuable and insightful text, thereby indirectly praising Count Modeli's discerning taste in literature. Her inner thoughts specifically commend Modeli's business acumen. Fredelman thoughtfully comments that he believes Aerin and his father would likely find common ground and get along quite well. Aerin, expressing surprise, clarifies if Fredelman is indeed referring to a potential rapport with Lord Modeli, to which he affirms with a nod. Aerin recalls that in her previous life, she had limited interaction with Count Modeli, but her impression was that he seemed like a sensible individual. Fredelman internally muses that if Aerin were to befriend his father, it would naturally facilitate his own closer relationship with Nux, viewing this as an advantageous, win-win scenario. Aerin smiles warmly, concurring that if she could establish a good relationship with Lord Modeli, It would indeed allow her to spend more enjoyable time with Fredelman as well. Fredelman beams with delight, exclaiming enthusiastically, "Yeah, I'd like that very much." Aerin observes Nux's uncharacteristically cheerful mood with some puzzlement, while Fredelman looks on with a touch of confusion. Aerin briefly considers reading the business book herself. Aerin playfully teases Fredelman, asking if he genuinely wants to read the book now, after initially deeming it too difficult. Fredelman insists it's fine, while Nux comically expresses a feeling of being left out of their burgeoning intellectual discussion. Aerin, sitting peacefully and lost in thought, is alerted by someone calling out Lady Aerin. Aerin dashes enthusiastically towards Duke Brauno, brightly announcing her arrival. Duke Brauno warmly welcomes Aerin and asks if she is returning from the laboratory. She confirms, explaining she visited the lab after her academy session. Duke Brauno expresses concern that assisting Jeffrey with his work must be quite tiring for her. Aerin cheerfully dismisses this, asserting that she genuinely enjoys it and learns a great deal from him. She Aerin's head as truly incredible. Lab after her academy giggles, basking in her grandfather's approval. Aerin observes the numerous stacks of documents on the Duke's desk, correctly inferring that he has also been diligently occupied with his own work. Aerin swallows nervously, a sudden apprehension gripping her as she wonders if the Duke has deliberately made time to speak with her, despite his busy schedule preparing for the House Council, because the topic is her impending adoption. Duke Brauno announces with a gentle smile that he wished to give Aerin a small present, causing her to look up in hopeful surprise. Aerin cautiously asks, "A present?" feeling a wave of relief that the conversation isn't, as she feared, about her adoption. The Duke explains it's a token of appreciation for her recent valuable assistance. Duke Brauno elaborates that, while maintaining the laboratory primarily benefits Jeffrey, he wishes to give Aerin something that she personally and genuinely desires. Aerin ponders what such a gift could possibly be. Aerin internally debates asking to be adopted by Jeffrey, but quickly dismisses the idea as too audacious. She considers requesting jewels for future financial security, but realizes such a gift wouldn't help her win the Duke's genuine affection or trust. Aerin, having reached a decision, looks at her grandfather and asks if, instead of a tangible gift, she might be granted a wish. Duke Brauno repeats, "A wish," with mild surprise. Aerin confirms her request, explaining she would like to save the wish and use it when she thinks of something truly important to her. Duke Brauno, visibly amused by her request, notes that she doesn't seem to have a specific wish in mind at the present moment, which causes Aerin to flinch with adorable embarrassment. Aerin shyly admits that, no, she doesn't have a wish formulated just yet. Duke Brauno chuckles warmly, praising her honesty as the best approach. Duke Brauno readily agrees to her unusual request, promising to fulfill one wish for her at a later time, provided it is not something dangerous. He expresses his anticipation in hearing what she eventually chooses. Aerin, absolutely overjoyed by her grandfather's generosity and understanding, exclaims with delight that he is truly the best grandpa ever. Kaizen approaches Duke Brauno, informing him that all preparations have been made as per his orders, and inquires if he should instruct the waiting party to continue holding. The Duke replies that it's not necessary, requesting just a moment more. Duke Brauno turns to Aerin and asks her to remain seated for a little while longer, to which she happily agrees. Duke Brauno hands Aerin a document, the cover of which reads Chadwick Diamond Mine Feasibility Study Report. The title immediately catches Aerin's eye, sparking a flicker of recognition. Aerin instantly recognizes the document as the financial accounting for the notoriously unsuccessful Chadwick Mine, an operation that was directly supervised by Havenik. Aerin vividly recalls her past life, where she was coerced into meticulously forging all the data related to this mine to deceptively portray it as a profitable venture. Aerin surmises that Havenik has likely already disbursed the advance payment to Trunate, making that aspect irreversible. However, she wonders if she can still intervene to prevent further damage from this impending fiasco. A sudden, electrifying thought strikes Aerin. If she reveals to the Duke the utterly fraudulent nature of this report. Aerin hesitates, her mind racing as a new, more strategic idea begins to take shape. Aerin realizes with dawning clarity that she can strategically leverage this falsified report as compelling evidence for why she absolutely should not be adopted by the incompetent and deceitful Havenik. The Chadwick Mine is depicted, an ambitious but ultimately fruitless endeavor intended to unearth valuable diamonds. It is explained that Havenik acquired the Chadwick diamond mine in a desperate attempt to offset his financial losses from other failed ventures. However, the mine proved to be entirely barren, not even yielding coal, let alone diamonds, ultimately becoming one of Havenik's most significant and costly blunders. Havenik, facing a full year without any profits to show for his efforts, and desperate to conceal his incompetence, ultimately resorted to forging his business accounts to prevent Aerin Duke Brauno from discovering the truth. Aerin, in her former life as a secretary, grimly remembers that her very first assignment was the arduous task of untangling and correcting the hopelessly jumbled financial records Havenik had created for the failed mine. Aerin recalls Havenik nonchalantly instructing her to merely skim over the documents at the time. However, terrified of being fired if any discrepancies were found, she meticulously forged the numbers, as if her very life depended on it. Aerin remembers Havenik's cunning calculation. He knew Aerin would be deeply engrossed in preparations for the House Council, and intended to surreptitiously sweep all evidence of his malfeasance under the rug in the meantime, like a thief absconding with his loot. The crux of Havenik's scheme was that Aerin would only uncover the truth after the House Council had concluded, by which time Havenik would likely avoid any significant punishment. Duke Brauno is shown looking frustrated while reviewing a document, hinting at the flawed nature of Havenik's reports. Aerin understood then, as she understands now, that once the House Council was over, it would be far too late to reverse the damage or hold Havenik truly accountable. Aerin resolves with steely determination to present irrefutable evidence of Havenik's incompetence and deceit to her grandfather before the House Council convenes, thereby proving to everyone that Havenik is utterly unfit to be a proper parent. This crucial realization solidifies Aerin's next course of action. She must locate the authentic, unadulterated financial records of the Chadwick mine. She searches her cluttered desk, wondering where the crucial document could possibly be. Suddenly, Aerin remembers. The ledger, that's what she needs to find. Havenik meticulously recorded all his dealings in it, a powerful tool if she could reveal it at the House Council. As dinner time approaches, Aerin gently asks if Aerin is getting hungry, and she shyly agrees. Aerin considers letting Aerin return to her room, but then an alternative idea for the evening strikes him. He extends an invitation for Aerin to join him for dinner, much to her surprise. Aerin happily imagines sharing a meal with Aerin, a rare and cherished opportunity. Overjoyed, she enthusiastically accepts her grandpa's invitation to dine with him. Following Aerin realizes with a touch of awe that she's entering the Duke's private dining area. Just then, Havenik's voice calls out to his father, and Aerin turns in startled confusion. Aerin is shocked to see Havenik and his wife arrive, warmly greeting Aerin. Aerin notes their early arrival, and Aerin's heart sinks as she realizes they were invited too. Havenik's wife expresses her deep gratitude for the dinner invitation, explaining it's why they came ahead of time. She then notices Aerin, and Aerin explains he invited the child since they were together, causing Aerin to nervously clutch his coat. Havenik's wife inquires if Evelyn and Weimel have eaten, offering to call them, while Aerin observes thoughtfully. Aerin clarifies that he has matters to discuss specifically with Havenik and his wife tonight, making Aerin uneasy. Aerin's stomach drops as she understands the Duke still considers this couple her designated parents. This, she concludes grimly, must be the entire reason for this joint dinner summons. Panic sets in. Aerin realizes she lacks a concrete plan to counter this development. Suddenly, Jeffrey appears, looking around and pointedly asking what everyone is doing gathered there. Aerin is surprised by Jeffrey's presence, while Havenik immediately scoffs at his tardiness. Havenik demands to know what took Jeffrey so long, stating they had summoned him much earlier. Jeffrey sighs dismissively, retorting that his arrival time is none of Havenik's concern. He adds with an air of indifference that he wouldn't even be present if not for his assistant's insistence. Havenik explodes in anger, calling Jeffrey an arrogant brat, while his wife tries to placate him. Aerin, sighing with weary frustration, steps forward with Aerin, asking when the two will cease their incessant bickering. Aerin quietly wonders if Jeffrey's unexpected appearance might somehow be because of her. Aerin declares it's time to put aside differences and enjoy the meal together. As they all take their seats, Aerin feels a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach, making it impossible to even think about eating. She worries that the Duke will be displeased if she barely touches her food, glancing at Jeffrey, who is already eating. Jeffrey, noticing her hesitation, kindly places a portion of food on her plate, assuring her it's the best option available. Deciding she might as well try it since Jeffrey offered, Aerin takes a tentative bite and finds it surprisingly good. To her relief, the food is delicious, and she begins to eat while Jeffrey continues his meal. The Duke turns the conversation to Havenik, inquiring about the progress with the Felfart Guild. Havenik reports that the guild is preparing their finest samples and that he successfully negotiated a lower advance payment. The Duke questions the necessity of an advance. Given the stiff competition from other guilds for the deal, Havenik explains the advance was unavoidable. The Duke seems to acknowledge this. Havenik then clears his throat, preparing to broach a new topic with his father. Research center they had Rafern discussed. Secured but Havenik personnel and a site. Stance against the center. Secured but Havenik personnel and a site. Insists that now is the perfect time. Havenik then suggests Aerin could join the center as a research apprentice, a proposal that visibly surprises the Duke. He elaborates that Jeffrey mentioned Aerin's aptitude for simple calculations, and seeing her success with Jeffrey's designs, they could manufacture mana instruments directly. Furthermore, Havenik argues, working at the research center would provide Aerin with valuable experience in economics and business management, causing Aerin to exclaim internally. Aerin is aghast, realizing Havenik's plan is to exploit Jeffrey's designs for his own profit and take her away in the process. Havenik presses that the research center should be opened as soon as possible, but Rafern interrupts by setting down his cutlery. Before any decisions about the center, Rafern firmly states, the matter of Aerin's permanent home must be settled, making Aerin flinch. Aerin anxiously wonders if he means adoption, and the Duke confirms his intention to find new parents for her at the upcoming House Council. He then directly addresses Havenik and his wife, stating he'd like them to consider becoming candidates for Aerin's adoption, shocking Aerin. Aerin stares in disbelief as the Duke reiterates his desire for Havenik and his wife to be the primary candidates. Visibly taken aback, Havenik's wife addresses the Duke, clearly needing clarification. While surprised, she questions the phrase, one of the candidates, wanting to know if other families are being considered. Rafern explains his intention to select two potential families, one from the direct ducal line and another from the extended family. He clarifies that if Aerin joins an extended family, she would no longer reside within the duchy, a somber prospect for Aerin. The Duke then expresses his personal preference for Havenik and his wife, as direct family, to adopt Aerin. Havenik beams with delight, enthusiastically declaring they would love to adopt her, calling it a blessing. His wife eagerly concurs. Aerin desperately clutches her dress, realizing with a sinking heart that this must have been the Duke's true intention all along. She recalls his promise to find her a comfortable place, now understanding she must use her one wish to escape this dire situation. Then the Duke reveals his alternative choice. He's considering Modeli's family, which catches Aerin completely off guard. Rafern praises Modeli as a trustworthy and invaluable member of their guild, confident he would provide a secure home for Aerin. He further mentions that Modeli's entire family seemed quite receptive to the idea when he broached the subject with them. The Duke adds that Modeli's son is close to Aerin's age and appeared genuinely pleased at the prospect of her joining their family. Aerin suddenly understands Nux's earlier cryptic words. This possibility must have been what he was alluding to. Havenik's wife, clearly displeased, interjects, questioning the Duke's rationale for deciding Aerin's adoption at the House Council and disparaging Modeli. She reminds the Duke of his preference for the direct family, urging him to entrust Aerin to them without delay for a smoother transition. She even suggests Lord Jeffrey would be relieved if they took Aerin, freeing him to concentrate on his research, a notion Jeffrey seems to ignore. Jeffrey coolly dismisses her suggestion without a word, merely prodding his food, causing Havenik's wife to flinch at his indifference. The Duke remarks that Jeffrey, the family rascal, has never involved himself in ducal affairs, so he doesn't expect a meaningful opinion from him now. He acknowledges that Havenik and his wife already have their own children, making their hands full, hence the need for both families to have ample time to consider. Rafern then turns to Aerin, gently stating he'd like her to think over the options as well. Startled, Aerin stammers her agreement. The Duke concludes the immediate discussion, announcing it will resume at the House Council, leaving Aerin to ponder her fate. Back in her room, Aerin reflects on the turn of events, a pen balanced thoughtfully on her lip, a sign of her deep contemplation. She muses over her doodles representing the adoption candidates, surprised that Modali has emerged as the Duke's backup plan. Choosing Modali has the clear benefit of gaining Nux as an ally, a comforting thought for Aerin. However, Modali's strained relationship with Havenik presents a significant complication, potentially alienating Havenik completely. Aerin acknowledges Modali's undeniable competence and crucial role in the Cock Guild's prosperity. It seems the Duke has indeed chosen a strong protector for her, she thinks, picturing herself as a well-guarded chess piece. She believes Modali's responsibility and business acumen would make him a good father, providing a stable environment. Yet despite these logical considerations, a small, persistent doubt lingers in Aerin's mind. She can't help but wonder if Jeffrey has truly abandoned any thought of adopting her himself. Determinedly, Aerin shakes off her growing melancholy, reminding herself that now is not the time for sadness. She reaffirms her ultimate objective. Avoiding adoption by Havenik is paramount, even more so than being adopted by Jeffrey. Therefore, she resolves to temporarily abandon her plan to be adopted by Jeffrey, decisively striking through his caricature on her notepad. Pausing for a moment of clarity, Aerin reminds herself to consider the broader implications and not make any rash decisions. She recognizes that Modali, now Plan C, presents a complex, double-edged sword due to his feud with Havenik, and nothing is yet set in stone. Moreover, Jeffrey's own intentions regarding her adoption remain ambiguous, adding another layer of uncertainty. Aerin senses the Duke currently favors Havenik, the direct family, over Modali, and thus, she must devise a strategy to make Havenik an untenable option. For now, Plan B, securing Jeffrey's adoption, is merely on hold, not entirely discarded from her considerations. Her immediate strategy crystallized, Aerin feels a surge of determination. Starting tomorrow, she will focus all her efforts on finding Havenik's ledger. With her mind made up, she decides it's best to try and get a good night's sleep. But sleep eludes her. Thoughts of the ledger keep her wide awake, tossing and turning. She vividly remembers, from her past life, actually holding that very ledger in her hands at some point. Concentrating hard, Aerin tries to recall Havenik's exact words concerning the ledger's whereabouts. A faint, ghostly image of Havenik surfaces in her memory, him mentioning the original account. The spectral Havenik explains he wouldn't keep something so vital in an obvious place, fearing its theft. He then mentions heading to the academy and instructs her to follow, indicating that the person accompanying him there would possess the ledger. The word academy echoes in Aerin's mind, and she sits bolt upright in bed, a sudden realization dawning. She remembers now, she didn't see the person's face, but someone at the academy, someone who had been there a long time, handed Havenik the ledger. A name springs to mind. Hilberg, a long-standing figure at the academy. Could he be the one holding the crucial ledger?